Good
Good
morning,
morning, Erin.
Supervisor Gaspar. How are you doing?
Hi.
Hello.
Just glorious.
Great, thank you.
Well, good morning and welcome to this Wednesday, November 18th meeting of the San Diego County Board of Supervisors. Today we have our regular land use agenda, and we're going to get started with that in just a moment. But this will also be a meeting of the San Diego County Board of Supervisors Air Pollution Control District Board. And in order to get started, I'm going to ask the clerk to please call the roll.
Thank you, Chairman Cox. Before I call the roll, I would like to note for the record that all 5 supervisors are participating via teleconference. As such, all votes will be handled by a roll call vote. Additionally, before we begin, any members of the public that wish to provide oral testimony during today's meeting, please review the instructions posted on the Clerk of the Board's webpage. I'll remind members of the public that have requested to speak to wait to dial into the meeting until the item is called. With that, I'll now call the roll. Supervisor Jacob?
Here.
Supervisor Gaspar?
Present.
Supervisor Fletcher?
Fletcher here.
Vice Chairman Desmond?
Here.
Chairman Cox?
Here. The first thing we'll do today is have a report out from our closed session meeting of yesterday, and we'll call on County Council to give that report at this time.
Thank you. The Board of Supervisors met in closed session starting at 3 p.m. and adjourning at 4:31 p.m. The board took the following reportable actions. Item 40A, Robinson Major v. County of San Diego. With all 5 board members voting aye, authorize County Council to settle this workers' compensation case brought by a deputy sheriff for $264,857.20. Item 40D, Voice of San Diego v. County of San Diego. With 4 board members voting aye and Supervisor Fletcher voting no, authorize County Council to file a petition for a writ of mandate with the California Court of Appeal challenging the Superior Court's decision requiring the county to provide, under the California Public Records Act, a list of death certificates registered in the county that identify COVID-19 as the cause of death. Item 40H, anticipated litigation, RE, East OTAY Mesa Fire Station, Sheriff Station. With all 5 board members voting aye, authorize County Council to settle Scannell Properties' claim that it is entitled to be reimbursed for expenses it paid to form a community facilities district and to construct a temporary sheriff station in East OTAY Mesa for $242,610.10. Thank you.
Thank you for the report out. We'll now go to public communications. It's my understanding we have 1 member of the public wishing to speak, and I'll ask the clerk to go ahead and identify that individual, and we'll hear their comments.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. We'd request from Charles Oswald to address the board orally this morning. That individual has not called into the meeting at this time.
Okay, well, we'll proceed on then to the, if he does call in the next 5 minutes or so, we'll try to work him in. We'll proceed to the next item on the agenda, which is the approval of the statement of proceedings and the minutes for the regular meeting of October 28th, 2020, and the Air Pollution Control District meeting of October 27th, 2020. Is there a motion for approval?
So moved.
Okay, we have a motion from Supervisor
Second.
Gaspar, seconded by Vice Chair Desmond. Is there any discussion? If not, would the clerk please call the roll?
Thank you, Chairman Cox.
Aye.
Supervisor Jacob.
Aye.
Supervisor Gaspar.
Aye.
Supervisor Fletcher.
Fletcher, aye.
Vice Chairman Desmond.
Aye.
Chairman Cox, that motion passes unanimously with all board members being present and voting aye.
Okay, we'll go ahead and form the consent calendar and give the one public commenter an opportunity to call in. If he doesn't call in or he or she doesn't call in, by the time we get done with the consent calendar, we'll just move on to the discussion items. All items on the calendar or the agenda will be considered to be routine and will be acted upon by one motion unless there's a desire on the part of the public or members of the board to pull items for further discussion. Mr. Clerk, which items have been pulled for discussion by the public?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Item 2 has not been pulled by the public, but I would like to note for the record that an errata has been distributed to the board and posted online for the public. The errata modified Attachment A, environmental documents. All references to reliance on the county's climate action plan or the CAP and the initial study mitigated negative declaration shall be removed due to rescission of the CAP. No new significant effects are identified and no new mitigation measures are required. With that note, that item may remain on consent. Item 3 requires a public hearing to receive and tabulate written protests, so that item has been pulled for discussion. Item 4 has been pulled by the public. Item 8 has been pulled by the public. And item 9 has been pulled by the public. All the remaining items on the Board of Supervisors agenda, as well as the County of San Diego Air Pollution Control Board, may be placed on the consent calendar for your board's consideration.
Okay, thank you very much. We'll move on now to give the members of the Board of Supervisors an opportunity to make comments on items on the consent calendar or to pull items for further discussion. We'll start off with our senior member of the Board of Supervisors in years of service, Diane Jacob.
Why, thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'm glad you didn't say the oldest and just the senior member of the board. Thank you for that. Item number 12, I have a comment. This is really great news for the East County area, and the action will advertise and award a construction contract worth $8.6 million for the first phase of the Bradley 67 interchange project. The total estimated cost for this project is $42 million, and it is so badly needed to relieve traffic congestion by widening the roadway and the bridge that crosses State Route 67 at that intersection of Bradley. Not only does this project support the existing businesses and operations at Gillespie Field, it's also a necessary component of the future Cajon Air Center development, a future driver of economic development. This project is expected to begin construction in the summer of 2021. And I'd like to give a really big shout out to the Department of Public Works staff. Rich, when he was the director, was a big part of this, and the rest of the DPW staff. They have put together a financing mechanism and taken the lead on this, where the state should have taken the lead because it's a state project, but we're doing it. We're doing it because it's important. It's important to jobs and businesses, economic development. So it's a very important project for those also who live in the El Cajon area and all of East County. So thank you, thank you, thank you. And with that, I would move approval of the consent agenda.
Okay, we have a motion from Supervisor Jacob. We'll move on to Supervisor Gaspar for any comments that she might have.
Thank you, Chairman Cox. I don't have additional comments or items to pull. I'll second the motion.
Okay, we'll move on to Supervisor Fletcher.
Again, I don't have any items to pull. I want to make brief comments on APCD agenda item 1. I support the community emissions reduction plan, the SERP. This is what our AB 617 communities need in order to move forward. I look forward to supporting its approval at the California Air Resources Board. But I do think that there are opportunities as we move forward where we can strengthen the SERP. to ensure we are moving as quickly as possible to address the very real environmental justice issues and public health issues that we find particularly in our AB 617 communities. There are opportunities where I believe we can be more aggressive, particularly around deployment of targeted and strategic zero emission technology, which can give us the greatest air quality benefits. We should also be gathering our city partners in this collaborative effort to ensure that land use solutions are consistent with everything that we're trying to do to tackle these issues in the community and make sure the implementation is being happen. I look forward to further engagement with the Air Resources Board and as we make our transition into a new structure, a new entity, and pleased to see this move forward and look forward to the work ahead.
Thank you, Supervisor. We'll move on now to Vice Chairman Desmond.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I have no items, further items to pull and no further comments.
Okay, I have no items to pull, but I do have some comments on a couple of the items on today's agenda. Starting off with item number 11, this is a general services authorization to advertise and award a construction contract for the purchase and installation of a modular building at the San Ysidro Fire Station number 29. As we roll out plans and programs to improve air quality in the region, I want to acknowledge the Air Pollution Control District, the Department of General Services, and the Department of Purchasing and Contracting for working together to build an air monitoring station at the San Ysidro Fire Station number 29. This monitoring station supports AB 617 to measure and reduce air pollution in communities heavily impacted by air pollution and is part of the U.S.-Mexico Border 2020 program. Once the station is built early next year, we should look forward to collecting important data and addressing the cross-border pollution effects, specifically near roadways to the border. I support this item before us today, and I thank our staff for working on this particular item. Item number 15 is our local implementation plan. You know, it was 48 years ago that Proposition 20 was passed by the voters of California, and it was 44 years ago that the 1976 Coastal Act was enacted by the legislature. Since then, there's 61 coastal cities and 15 coastal counties. It's been the responsibility of each of those jurisdictions to develop their local coastal plan, and then the second part of that is an implementation plan. And once that's been blessed by the Coastal Commission, you have a certified local coastal plan. When I got on the Coastal Commission in 2013, I was somewhat surprised to find out that the County of San Diego did not have an approved local coastal plan. Now, there was some rationale or reasons for that. It was because we had a local coastal plan in 1984 that was just about ready to be certified when we had the incorporation of the cities of Solana Beach and Encinitas, which pretty well gutted what was in the county's local coastal plan at that time. So it was kind of set aside and was kind of forgotten about. But I decided that I wanted to make sure that the county was in full compliance with the Coastal Act. So we began a process in 2013. It's only taken 7 years to go through the entire process. And this is really the last step in the process. With our approval today, it'll go back to the Coastal Commission in December for their final blessing. And then we can say that we do have a certified local coastal plan. And of course, the irony of this is that we don't have any coastal areas in the unincorporated area of the county under our jurisdiction. It's primarily properties that are east of Interstate 5, but it's going to make it a lot easier for properties that may be needing development permits to get those from the County of San Diego, as opposed to having to go through a process all the way to the Coastal Commission when they have their monthly meetings. I want to thank Sarah Agassi and her team for their hard work to bring this important item forward. They have been diligent, working nonstop for a couple of years now, and especially over the last few months with the Coastal Commission, to ensure that we have the best local implementation plan that we can have. The implementation plan before us was certified by the Commission on November 5th of this year. And again, it just has to go back after our action for their final administrative approval. This will give us the ability to carry out policies of the California Coastal Act at the local level. And again, as I mentioned, as a former Coastal Commission member, I know how critical these plans are This plan will allow us to take a bigger role in ensuring the protection of our coastal resources, and when necessary, it will provide us with the responsibility of issuing coastal development permits. And again, I want to thank Sarah and her entire team for the work that they did in making this possible. And then finally, on APC District 1, the Community Emissions Reduction Plan for Portside Environmental Justice Neighborhoods. I want to thank Rob Reeder and his staff for their efforts to help develop the draft Community Emissions Reduction Plan, which is a accumulation of technical expertise, policy review and analysis, and stakeholder input by both industry and the community. I appreciate their ongoing efforts to complete the plan. This is a huge step forward addressing air quality in the Portside environmental justice neighborhoods. These neighborhoods include Barrio Logan, Logan Heights, Sherman Heights, and Western National City, all of which are located in my district and happen to experience higher exposure to air pollutants and are therefore disproportionately burdened. The strategies included in this plan will help to better evaluate, monitor, and address air pollutants. Phase 1 proposes to provide residential air purifiers and monitors to up to 1,000 residents in the Portside community over the next year. Collecting data and quantifying cumulative health risks from sources of air pollution are critical for making air pollution improvements in air quality. I also want to acknowledge the Port of San Diego, the United States Navy, and the local shipyards who have also provided early commitments to help reduce air pollution and exposure in the Portside community. Also, thank you to the Portside Community Steering Committee for their efforts to help develop this plan. We look forward to this plan getting underway, as well as overall efforts to implement AB 617 around our region to lessen exposure and emissions and overall help improve environmental health. As such, I strongly support this item before us today. So we do have a motion and a second. Supervisor Jacob, did you want to speak? Okay.
I'm done for now.
Okay, we do have a motion by Supervisor Jacob, seconded by Supervisor Gaspar. If there's no further discussion, I'll ask the clerk to please call the roll.
Thank you, Chairman Cox. With that motion, item 6 introduces 4 ordinances. The first ordinance amends portions of the San Diego County Code of Administrative Ordinances, Article 16C relating to the functions of the San Diego County Fish and Wildlife Advisory Commission. A second ordinance amending the San Diego County Code of Administrative Ordinances, Article 21A relating to the rules of conduct and procedure for planning and zoning process, to update the process of how hearings are recorded and to convey that recorded hearings are readily available to the public and related actions. Third ordinance amends the San Diego County Code of Regulatory Ordinances related to INET advisory services. And the fourth ordinance amends the San Diego County Regulatory Code relating to zoning and land use regulations to update and clarify the process, update definitions and terms, establish that the Director of the Department of Parks and Recreation will determine and concur whether there is necessary rough proportionality between the required dedication and the impacts of or benefits to the proposed subdivision under Section 81.402U to provide greater clarity and minor grammatical edits and related actions. And item 7 introduces an ordinance amending Title 9, Division 7, Chapter 1 of the San Diego County Code of Regulatory Ordinances, the County Green Building Code, related to increasing water efficiency in new residential development. With that, I will now call the votes. Chairman Cox?
Aye.
Supervisor Jacob?
Aye.
Supervisor Gaspar?
Aye.
Supervisor Fletcher?
Fletcher, aye.
Vice Chairman Desmond?
Aye.
Chairman Cox, that motion passes unanimously with all board members being present and voting aye.
Very good, thank you. Before we get into the discussion items, it's my understanding that the public communications speaker has called in now, and I'll ask the clerk to go ahead and identify that individual.
Thank you, Chairman Cox. We did receive an additional request to speak under a non-agenda public comment, so we'll have 2 callers this morning. I'd like to call forward the first individual. You'll have 2 minutes to address the board. You'll hear a notification that your call has been unmuted, and then you'll need to press *6 to unmute your phone. We'll ask you to please state your name for the audio record. Aaron, if you could please identify the first caller.
Yes, our first caller is 3141. 3141, please press *6 to unmute your phone and then state your name for the record.
Okay, am I on?
Yes, you are.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, my name is Charles Oswald. I have a home in Boulevard on Opalaga Road. I'm calling in concern about this proposed ordinance to allow renewable energy projects to not have to pay certain development fees. And I am 100% against that. As a property owner, a longtime property owner since mid-90s in the far eastern edge of the county, we get to pay all the fees and all the taxes on everything we ever do with our property. And to allow a strongly potential profit item like a large solar array or a large wind farm to avoid having to pay impact fees for the school district, which is woefully under budgeted in the county for Mountain Empire School District, and to avoid paying other taxes and fees that everyone else has to pay, I think is 100% a disservice to us, the residents and taxpayers of the far eastern end of the county, as well as, well, I can't comment on the impact on our lives here because that's not on this particular point of the agenda, only the taxes. So my opinion is that the County Board of Supervisors should not be giving away our potential receipts of tax money from profit-making businesses that wish to locate in our part of the county with no benefit whatsoever to the residents of this part of the county. Only degradation of our lifestyle and our environment, which has already been happening. I get to watch it every day from my house, the 50 plus big windmills out there in McCain Valley, which I realize is on government property, and you guys are federal government property, excuse me, and the Board of Supervisors has no jurisdiction over that.
Mr. Oswald?
But yes, sir.
Your time is up, and it appears that you're addressing item 8 on the agenda, that you also requested to speak on that item.
Yeah, this I thought this was item 8 that we were talking about right now.
This is for items that are not related, issues not related.
Oh, okay. This is item C then.
Yes.
That we're doing. This is general comment. Okay. Well, unfortunately, my time is up. So what I have intended to comment on, I guess I'll have to wait for another meeting. So this is item C. Yeah. So we're on item C then. Thank you.
And we'll move on to our other person who requested to speak on non-agenda public communications. Again, this is an opportunity to address the board on items that are not on the agenda today. That speaker is 7613.
Good morning. My name is Becky Ratt, and I live in District 3. I wanted to thank Kristen Gaspar for all her hard work and dedication to our district. The vote of this board opposing marijuana outlets in unincorporated areas is also greatly appreciated and sends a clear message that this board is not in the business of enlarging the marijuana footprint and recognizing that this is a time of heightened anxieties and uncertainties. The truth is that marijuana is not what it used to be. Health experts consider that THC potency above 15% classifies as a hard drug, yet the average potency for weed today is 19.6. Edible and vape products designed to appeal to the young have potency as high as 95%. High potency products are contributing to addiction, severe health problems, and even fatalities. A recent U.S. Department of Health report states that 700,000 youth aged 12 to 17 had an addiction to marijuana, and more than 4.8 million people aged 12 or older had marijuana use disorder in 2019. In San Diego County, hospital discharge data shows 29 people a day end up in the ER due to issues including marijuana use disorder, marijuana hyperemesis syndrome, or marijuana poisoning. Consider the toddler who died after ingesting a THC-laced gummy bear and the young San Diego woman who died recently, as reported in the UT, after consuming a gummy bear. These are only a few examples of the fact that manufacturers and retailers do not warn consumers that use of their high-potency products carry extreme risk. Thank you for taking my call.
Thank you. And that concludes the request for public communications this morning, Chairman Cox.
Thank you very much. We appreciate the public comments, and we'll move on now to our regular agenda items. Item number 3 is a notice public hearing. This is a second consideration and adoption of an ordinance to set a hearing to consider adoption of water rate and hold a hearing to adopt fee ordinances for provision of water service by county service area number 137. It's my understanding that we do not have any speakers on this, but it is a public hearing, and I believe that we have a tabulation of votes that we need to deal with today as far as people that may be opposed to this. So let me ask Sarah or whoever's going to start the lead on this to go ahead and walk us through the issue.
Mr. Chairman, this is Andrew Potter. I'll take it from here. This item requires the board to conduct a public hearing to receive written protests from property owners and tenants of parcels within county service area number 137. It'd be appropriate to receive the public comment, then close the public hearing in order for the written protest to be tabulated. I'll note for the record that all protests must be in writing. One protest may be counted per parcel submitted by either an owner or resident of the parcel or both. The board cannot impose the rates of protests that are received from majority of the parcels. And depending on the results of the election, the board will be requested to take additional actions. I'll note for the record, as you did as well, that we did not receive any requests to speak this morning, and we have concluded the tabulations of the written protests that we received. We received 5 written protests of 90 parcels. So since there is not a majority protest, it would be appropriate to entertain a motion to adopt recommendations 1 through 7 for this item.
Okay, is there a motion for approval?
So moved.
I'll second.
Okay, we have a motion by Supervisor Jacobs, seconded by Vice Chair Desmond. Is there any board discussion, comments? Seeing none, would the clerk please call the roll?
Thank you, Chairman Cox.
Aye.
Supervisor Jacob.
Aye.
Supervisor Gaspar.
Aye.
Supervisor Fletcher.
Fletcher, aye.
Vice Chairman Desmond.
Aye.
Chairman Cox, that motion passes unanimously with all board members being present and voting aye.
Very good. We'll move on to item number 4 now, which is a notice public hearing. This is OTAY Ranch Resort Village 13 General Plan Amendment, Specific Plan, Zone Reclassification, Vesting Replacement Tentative Map, Site Plan rather, and Environmental Document. This is located in the OTAY Sub-Regional Plan area. Would the staff go ahead and begin their presentation on this item?
Good morning, Chairman Cox and Supervisors. I'm Ashley Smith with Planning and Development Services. Today, Mark Slovic and I will be presenting item number 4, which is the OTAY Ranch Resort Village 13 project. The department is before you today recommending approval of the project. The 1,938-acre site is located in the unincorporated area of southern San Diego County within Proctor Valley, Hamul Mountain area of OTAY Ranch, and is within the OTAY Subregional Plan area. The project site is 2.5 miles east of State Route 125, 8 miles from Interstate 805, southwest of State Route 94, and is 1/4 mile east of the city of Chula Vista and 12 miles to the southeast of the community of Hamul. OTAY Ranch Village 14 is approximately 1 mile north in the adjacent Proctor Valley and is separated by a ridge from Village 13. In 1993, the Board of Supervisors adopted the 22,889-acre OTAY Ranch Plan, which included OTAY Ranch Resort Village 13. In 1997, the Board of Supervisors adopted the Multiple Species Conservation Program, or MSCP Sub-Area Plan, and the Implementing Agreement, and in 1998, the United States Fish and Wildlife Service issued the county its incidental take permit. In August 2011, the Board of Supervisors adopted the general plan, which included the OTAY Ranch Plan. The project includes up to 1,938 dwelling units, including 1,881 single-family units and 57 multifamily units, up to 2,000 square feet of neighborhood-serving commercial, approximately 25 acres of public and private parks, a 6-acre homeowners park facility, 9 miles of community trails and pathways, and a total of 860 acres of open space. The project also includes an approximately 16-acre resort site with a 200-room hotel with outdoor plazas, up to 20,000 square feet of retail space, and conference areas. Construction is anticipated to occur over approximately 8 to 10 years in response to market demands and in accordance with phased improvements to roads, public utilities, and infrastructure. No specific phasing sequence has been proposed, but necessary infrastructure will be constructed with each phase with approval of additional site plans required for each subphase. The project also includes a 30-acre village core that includes a 6.6-acre mixed-use site with up to 20,000 square feet of neighborhood commercial uses, a 10.1-acre school site, 10.5-acre public park, and a 2.3-acre joint-use fire and sheriff station site. The applicants are requesting a general plan amendment, specific plan, zone reclassification, a vesting replacement tentative map, and a vesting site plan to implement the proposed master plan development. The project is consistent with the density and intensity of development identified in the general plan. The general plan amendment and zone reclassification will adjust the OTAY Ranch development boundaries to conform to the MSCP and do not include any changes to density. The project also proposes the removal of a golf course use and changes to the road classification of OTAY Lakes Road. This slide shows photo simulations of the project site and along OTAY Lakes Road. The project includes a total of 16.6 acres of parks, which exceeds the county's parkland dedication ordinance requirement of 16.3 acres. In addition, the project will construct 9 miles of trails and pathways, including along OTAY Lakes Road, that will provide connections to the OTAY Lake Reservoir trails and the City of Chula Vista's Greenbelt Trail system to the west. The project also includes indoor and outdoor recreation facilities that provide a range of community amenities. Approximately 860 acres will be preserved in permanent open space, which is shown in dark green. The proposed open space preserve will maintain the north-south wildlife linkage between Hamul Mountain and conserved open spaces south and east of the project site.
The project serves as a transitional development between the urbanized city of Chula Vista and the more rural communities of the county. The project implements the goals and policies envisioned for the OTAY Ranch Plan by locating higher density residential in the city of Chula Vista, providing larger lots, lower density options in the more rural county areas. From the village core, the project is approximately 2.5 miles from the nearest commercial office centers in the city of Chula Vista. OTAY Lakes Road will provide primary access to the project site via 4 roundabouts, which will be constructed along OTAY Lakes Road. The applicant will be required to widen OTAY Lakes Road to 4 lanes within the city of Chula Vista to the first roundabout by the 384th building permit. OTAY Lakes Road will be widened to 4 lanes from the first roundabout to the second roundabout by the 896th building permit. The remaining portion of OTAY Lakes Road to the east will be improved to 2 lanes with bike lanes, shoulders, and a pathway by the 896th building permit and before construction of the hotel. The county received public comments regarding the proposed transportation and traffic studies for the project, including concerns with traffic safety, traffic distribution, and road improvements. A traffic impact study was prepared that analyzed the project's potential direct, cumulative, and horizon year traffic impacts and identify the road improvements required for the project. The traffic analysis estimates the project will generate 27,191 average daily vehicle trips and will result in direct and cumulative traffic impacts to roads and intersections within the county, City of Chula Vista, and Caltrans Authority. The traffic analysis identified direct impacts to OTAY Lakes Road between Lake Crest Drive to the City of Chula Vista boundary and at the intersection of West Day Road and OTAY Lakes Road, which are circled in red. The project is required to widen OTAY Lakes Road and install a traffic signal at the intersection of West Day Road and OTAY Lakes Road, as well as an estimated $3.5 million payment to the county's Transportation Impact Fee Program, which will mitigate the project's direct impacts. Some traffic improvements are located outside the county's jurisdiction, so the impacts are identified as significant and unavoidable in the EIR. However, the project applicant has an agreement with the City of Chula Vista to make the required improvements, so the off-site impacts will be mitigated. The project will construct an on-site fire station to ensure that the entire development will be served within the 5-minute travel time requirement of the county general plan. An interim fire station capable of providing full-service fire, medical, and other emergency response will be constructed prior to occupancy of the first home and will provide fire and emergency medical services. The new permanent fire station will be constructed prior to the 650th home. Fire protection services must be operational within the 5-minute travel time before any homes are occupied. Staffing and maintenance of both the interim and permanent fire stations will be funded through a community facilities district or other funding mechanism approved by the county. Concerns were raised regarding the increase in the number of additional cars that will be on the roads during an emergency event. A wildland fire evacuation plan has been prepared for Village 13, which identifies the primary evacuation routes, individual emergency preparedness, and specific measures to keep future residents and employees informed about what to do in the event of an emergency. Although wildland fire and other emergencies are often fluid events, and the need for evacuations are determined by on-scene first responders or emergency response teams, the plan evaluated the project's impact on emergency evacuation. The community HOA will have an outreach and educational role, oversee enforcement of the fire-safe landscaping, ensure fire safety measures detailed in the fire protection plan are implemented, and educate residents on Ready, Set, Go plans. Access to the project is from OTAY Lakes Road, which does not provide access to the Village 14 project. The Village 14 project is separate from Village 13 with access off Proctor Valley Road. Based on the project's road network, project residents can evacuate using OTAY Lakes Road to the west into the nearby city of Chula Vista, or northeast towards Hamul out to Highway 94, depending on the nature of the emergency. The emergency response team would monitor the wildfire and evacuation efforts and make decisions on which areas to evacuate and in which direction in real time. Evacuations would be phased to reduce the number of vehicles on the road at once. Evacuation scenarios were modeled for the project and included in the EIR. And under an unlikely scenario where you evacuate the entire project at once, it was anticipated that in either direction, the entire population could be evacuated conservatively within 2 to 2.5 hours. This would add approximately 4,600 vehicles on the road during an evacuation and represents the overall evacuation time if every resident and vehicle attempted to evacuate in the same direction at the same time. The Sheriff's Department has reviewed the project and confirmed that given the project's consolidated design, type of vegetation surrounding the project, proposed fuel modification, and proximity to the city of Chula Vista, they can evacuate the project safely without endangering lives. Concerns were also raised regarding the project's impacts to the QUINO CHECKERSPOT butterfly and San Diego fairy shrimp. The project is located within the county's MSCP subarea plan, which identifies the development area as take authorized, but does not extend incidental take authority to QUINO or fairy shrimp species. The applicant has been conditioned to obtain incidental take authority either through the county's MSCP QUINO subarea plan addition or through a separate permitting process prior to any construction on the site. Concerns were also raised regarding the greenhouse gas emissions from the project. Public comments were not opposed to the on-site measures, which include sustainable design features that reduce GHG emissions on-site by approximately 16%, including zero net energy homes with solar that will be powered by electricity only with no natural gas, multifamily residences and non-residential buildings designed to improve building energy efficiency by 10%, drought-tolerant landscaping and efficient irrigation systems, electric vehicle charging stations installed in half of the residential units with the other half EV-ready, and 10 EV charging stations installed in the commercial areas and parks. The project also precludes the use of gas-powered landscape maintenance equipment and golf carts. The project includes a transportation demand management, or TDM program, that includes carpool, vanpool, rideshare programs, and a school carpool program for future residents. The project also provides a network of multi-use trails, pedestrian network improvements, and bike lanes. Commenters raised concerns regarding the use of carbon offsets to mitigate the remaining 84% of GHG emissions that cannot be mitigated on site. Commenters stated that the project should not move forward because of the recent appeal court ruling on the 2018 Climate Action Plan, or CAP. In order to reduce GHG emissions to zero, the project must implement measures on-site and off-site, which includes the purchase of carbon offset credits. While the recent 2018 CAP ruling addressed the use of carbon offsets for general plan amendment projects that would increase density over the general plan, the decision provided general guidance on how carbon offsets may be used for mitigation. The project is consistent with the general plan, and the dwelling units were included in the baseline projections of the 2018 CAP. No additional GHG emissions from this project are anticipated beyond what the county estimated in the 2018 cap. The project, however, did not rely or tier from the cap, which has been rescinded. If the project has relied or tiered from the 2018 cap and implemented the required measures, it would have resulted in an overall reduction of 141,870 metric tons of GHG emissions. The remaining 878,850 metric tons of GHG emissions would not have been mitigated. Through the project's proposal to mitigate to net zero, the project's mitigation will exceed the 2018 cap requirements through the purchase of carbon offsets to reduce GHG emissions to zero. In addition, the project will no longer have the option to purchase international carbon offsets and will only be able to purchase carbon offsets that follow the specific protocols that were circulated for public comment. Prior to any construction on the site, a third-party broker will identify carbon offsets available locally within the county needed to mitigate the project's 38,476 metric tons of GHG emissions resulting from construction. Then, if there are local carbon offsets available on the 3 CARB-approved registries that follow the specific protocols, the applicant will be required to purchase those carbon offsets. If no carbon offsets are available locally or the amount needed exceeds what is available, the broker will identify if there are any carbon offsets available within the state of California. If no credits are available or the amount needed exceeds what is available, the broker will evaluate if there are any carbon offsets available within the United States. In addition, the third-party broker must verify that the carbon offsets have occurred. The same process will be followed prior to construction of any homes occurring on the site. Home construction will be phased, so the amount of carbon offsets required will be equivalent to the number of homes proposed in that particular phase. There is no requirement that a specific amount of carbon offsets be purchased locally. The location of the carbon offsets will be based on availability at the time construction occurs. If the board requests this amount of carbon offsets occur locally, staff requests that the project be referred back to staff for further analysis, including to determine the feasibility of mitigating the specific amount of GHG emissions locally and to determine if additional CEQA review is needed. Because the project will mitigate GHG emissions to zero, it will provide more mitigation than required by other general plan consistent projects. The project also complies with the 2018 cap ruling on the use of carbon offsets and will result in a less than significant impact from GHG emissions. The draft EIR for the project was circulated for a 45-day public review period from April 3rd, 2015 to May 22nd, 2015. A total of 68 comment letters were received during public review. The comments identified concerns with traffic, biology, fire safety, noise, and aesthetics. The greenhouse gas emission and alternatives chapters of the EIR were recirculated for a 45-day public review period from April 11th, 2019 to May 28th, 2019. A total of 13 comment letters were received during public review. The comments noted concerns with traffic, fire safety and evacuation, biology, and greenhouse gas emissions. The greenhouse gas emission protocol disclosure was circulated for a 30-day public review period from August 20th, 2020 to September 18th, 2020. The county circulated revised carbon offset protocols to be used as mitigation for the project's GHG impacts. A total of 4 comment letters were received during public review and noted concerns with pending litigation and the carbon offset protocols. Responses to the comments for the public review periods are included in the final EIR and are on the county's website. OTAY Ranch Resort Village 13 is in the OTAY subregional plan area, which has no established community planning or sponsor group. As a result, there is no community recommendation for the project. The Hamul del Zura Community Planning Group provided a recommendation on October 13th, 2020, that the project pay its fair share for all traffic impacts, specifically the intersection of 94 and Otay Lakes Road. As requested by the planning group, the project is conditioned to mitigate the project's traffic impacts, including within the city of Chula Vista, and make a fair share payment to Caltrans to mitigate the cumulative traffic impact to the intersection of 94 and Otay Lakes Road. On April 17th, 2020, the Planning Commission recommended approval of the project by a vote of 4-2 with 1 commissioner recused. PDS finds that the project is in conformance with federal, state, and county laws. The project will provide a range of single-family and multifamily residences, as well as a resort hotel in close proximity to the urbanized area of Chula Vista, employment, and everyday conveniences. As such, the department concurs with the Planning Commission and recommends that your board approve the project and take the following actions. Adopt the environmental findings and statement of overriding considerations. Adopt the general plan amendment, specific plan, zone reclassification, vesting replacement tentative map, and vesting site plan, and require the applicant to enter into a defense and indemnification agreement in accordance with County Code Section 86.201 in the amount of $1 million in the form of an irrevocable letter of credit or bond, and authorize the Director of PDS to execute the agreement. In addition to the comment letters received during public review of the project EIR, a large volume of public correspondence has also been received in advance of today's hearing. All this correspondence has been reviewed by staff from County Fire Authority, PDS, and County Council. In response to the letter from the Attorney General, staff prepared a written response that details the county's analysis and position that the mitigation provided by the project will mitigate potential wildfire impacts and does not pose a danger to future residents or the public. In addition, in our response to the letter and other comment letters, staff recommends 3 additional clarifications to the project's conditions. These recommendations include to prohibit the use of any plants listed on the prohibited plant list on all landscape plans and on private lots through the Homeowners Association CCNRs, change the word may to shall in mitigation measure M-B-9B, QUINO Management Enhancement Plan, to require all listed performance measures. And then third, the project shall not utilize any of the 3 carbon offset protocols listed by the Climate Action Reserve under the Climate Forward program to mitigate for the project's construction-related emissions, and all carbon offsets used for operational emissions must be retired within 30 years. This concludes our presentation, and staff is available for questions. Thank you.
Thank you very much for the staff presentation. Are there any questions of staff before we go into the group presentation? And I believe we have 15 speakers.
Mr. Chairman, I just have one question. Excuse me. Haven't quite figured that out yet. This is a net zero project, and that's a really good thing. And I brought this up to staff earlier, and I think Mark was going to check into it. But here's a potential situation. This is going to be an all-electric development with solar, and then it'll be wired for battery backup. The problem is this: if SDG&E continues with its proactive cutting off of the electricity, you could potentially have a community that is without electricity for a number of days. That happened with the Valley fire. So you could have solar, you could have the battery backup, but you still may be without electricity. So, and the only way I know of is that if this is on a circuit where they couldn't shut off the power. Accidents happen, power goes out that way. But I think it's a very important question to get answered, because I would not want to see all these people, all these houses potentially, and we've got a big wind event, SDG&E proactively shuts out the power. And like with the Valley fire, the power was out for almost a week. And here you've got thousands of people potentially. So Mark, I wonder if you have a question to that, or if you've checked into it with SDG&E. Is there some way, I know this is going to be underground, is there some way that this is on a circuit that would not be affected?
Supervisor, through the chair, yes, we did reach out to SDG&E, and they confirmed, Supervisor, that it is going to be on its own separate circuit that comes from the city of Chula Vista. With that being said, SDG&E would not shut off power to the Village 13 project under a public safety power shutoff. Because it's on its own circuit and it's all undergrounded, there would be no need to shut off the power to the Village 13 project.
Thank you for checking that. That was a concern of mine. It's happened. Thank you. That's all for now.
Okay, any other questions of staff? Hearing none, we'll proceed into the first group presentation, actually the only group presentation, which is the applicant. What I intend to do is to give the applicant 15 minutes for their group presentation. They will need to have at least 3 speakers, and then we'll proceed into the 15 individual speakers that wish to express their opinion on this project. They each will be given 3 minutes to make their comments. So Mr. Clerk, go ahead and call up the group presentation.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Also note for the record that we received 61 e-comments on this item. For the benefit of all the speakers, the group, and the individuals, we will be calling speakers by the last 4 digits of their phone number. You'll hear notification that your call has been unmuted. You will then need to press *6 to unmute your phone. Each caller will be asked to state their name for the record, and as the chairman indicated for the group, you'll have 15 minutes. For the individuals, you'll have 3 minutes to address the board. And you'll hear this sound. Just a moment. That's the sound you'll hear when your time is up. So please conclude your comments at that time. And I'll remind the public speakers that they should mute their TV or live video stream before they begin speaking. Aaron, if you could please identify all the callers in the group presentation, please.
Yes, we have, I think we have 4 different members of the group who would like to introduce themselves, and then we'll proceed with your group presentation. So we have 5578, 5496, 1707, and then we also have the applicant spokesperson, 3550. So if any of you would like to introduce yourselves, and then we'll proceed with the presentation. You each need to press *6 to unmute yourselves first. Again, you should all be getting a notification to press *6 to unmute yourselves now.
Good morning, Chairperson Cox and members of the board. This is Stephen Haas representing the applicants for Village 13.
Good morning. This is Ted Shaw, 1707. I'm ceding my time to the presentation.
Good morning. This is Keith Crabtree with Hunsaker, 858-342-5496. I'm ceding my time to the presenter as well.
And then if Valerie 5578 would like to unmute yourself, press *6. Or we can just proceed with the presentation if you'd like. Is the group ready to proceed with our presentation?
Yes, we are.
It looks like we're having some audio issues in the chamber, so just one moment, please.
EIR Alternative H. We Board of Supervisors and Good morning, Chairperson Cox and members of the Board of Supervisors. I'm Eric Johnston, representing Baldwin & Sons and Moeller OTAY Lakes Development, the applicants for the OTAY Ranch Resort Village EIR Alternative H. We wish to thank the Board of Supervisors and county staff for your efforts and understanding to craft a public hearing process in response to these challenging times. Please accept this electronic presentation in lieu of participating in person. Baldwin & Sons is one of the founding developers of OTAY Ranch with a commitment to the long-term development of the master planned community. Baldwin & Sons is a privately owned and operated company run by Chief Executive Officer Al Baldwin. With over 60 years of community and home building experience, Baldwin & Sons have built over 20,000 homes and, more importantly, communities that feature a high quality of life. Baldwin & Sons is currently active in the city of Chula Vista in OTAY Ranch Village 2, a village of approximately 4,000 homes, 2 elementary schools, parks and open space. and also in Planning Area 12, comprised of 2 hotels and high-density mixed-use housing, which is located immediately adjacent to the OTAY Ranch Town Center and the South Bay Bus Rapid Transit Line. The OTAY Ranch Master Plan is a visionary and award-winning plan that has created a large-scale complete community. The resort village honors the joint planning efforts and agreements approved almost 30 years ago and fulfills the vision of OTAY Ranch. Resort Village Alternative H is consistent with the OTAY Ranch General Development Plan and the Sub-Regional Plan, which have been updated to reflect changes to land use and planning goals. Examples of updating include the elimination of the original proposed project's golf course, which is environmentally and economically unsustainable in today's world, and maintaining the existing alignment of OTAY Lakes Road to avoid greater impacts within the OTAY Ranch Preserve. Alternative H provides a superior choice to the 2004 proposed project by following the MSCP hardline created in the South County subarea in 1996. The Board of Supervisors has heard repeated testimony of the grand bargain struck between the environmental community and property owners of the OTAY Ranch Master Plan. It is in the interest of all parties that this grand bargain be honored, which is exactly what is accomplished by the design of the Resort Village Alternative H. The Resort Village Alternative H is consistent with the density and intensity of the County General Plan and the OTAY Ranch General Development and Subregional Plans, and was further validated in the county's General Plan update in 2011. The Alternative H proposed amendments to the General Plan are technical in nature to implement the land use, zoning, and circulation elements for the project. Alternative H contributes to regional housing goals as approved by the County of San Diego in the 2017 Housing Element Update and SANDAG's 2020 Regional Housing Needs Assessment. It is also consistent with California state goals to build housing for all income levels, as embodied in Senate Bill 220, the Housing Crisis Act of 2019. Along with consistency with the South County MSCP, the Resort Village complies with the requirements of the comprehensive update to the OTAY Ranch Resource Management Plan, approved by both the county and the City of Chula Vista. The City of Chula Vista and the applicant have entered into a development cooperation agreement to ensure impacts within the City of Chula Vista's jurisdiction will be constructed to mitigate to below a level of significance. These improvements also enhance ingress and egress in the event of an emergency. In addition, a fair share contribution will be made for the OTAY Lakes Road and State Route 94 intersection, currently being designed by the county and Caltrans. Lastly, the comprehensive analysis of global climate change impacts and greenhouse gas emissions include feasible mitigation to reduce construction emissions associated with new homes to net zero. This includes additional mitigation measures not included as a reduction in the final EIR, such as the deletion of natural gas service to all single-family homes, resulting in an additional reduction of over 1,000 metric tons of CO2 annually. Over the past year, the Board of Supervisors has become very familiar with the history of OTAY Ranch. Supervisors Cox and Jacob, with their years of service with the City of Chula Vista and on this board, both have personal history with the development of OTAY Ranch. The resort village is located south of Village 14, approximately 1 mile east along OTAY Lakes Road from urban development in the City of Chula Vista. Planning for the resort village began in 2004 and has continued to evolve over the past 16 years. The proposed project was originally envisioned as a golf course community, requiring an amendment to the South County MSCP. The preferred alternative before you today, Alternative H, is instead MSCP hardline compliant, resulting in numerous project benefits. A visual comparison of the originally proposed project and Alternative H demonstrates the benefits of this new alternative. A more compact development footprint that reduces edge effects by over 50%, which reduces impacts to sensitive environmental resources and increases safety for a fire-resistant community. An increase in walkability, proximity to parks, social interaction, and a community with a single self-identity. A stronger village core with increased synergy from the proximity of the elementary school, neighborhood serving retail uses, public safety site, public community park, and homeowners facility. The elimination of the alignment of OTAY Lakes Road through the middle of the community, which resulted in fragmenting the preserve and potential effects to golden eagle foraging. Preservation and enhancement of on-site vernal pools and federally listed endangered plant species. A carefully designed wildlife crossing under OTAY Lakes Road that is designed to provide large and small wildlife species movement from the on-site preserve to off-site preserve areas. Alternative H maintains the development approved by the OTAY Ranch Master Plan for the resort village on a more compact development footprint, including a fire station, elementary school, resort hotel, an HOA facility, and a public and private parks. It also increases the preservation acreage of valuable QUINO habitat by 87 acres, while being consistent with the MSCP hardline boundary and the protection of 85 species, including the golden eagle. The conservation ratio for important QUINO habitat increases from 2:1 under the proposed project to 2.85:1 under Alternative H. It also increases the width of the wildlife corridor from the eastern development boundary to the wildlife refuge immediately adjacent to the east of the project site. The project objectives for Alternative H of the resort village include the following. Creation of a destination resort facility that maximizes the unique South County open space, high terrain, and lake views within a distinct, predominantly single-family home community. Establish an executive-level specialty housing enclave within OTAY Ranch that attracts business owners and employees, providing this segment of the housing market with communities to live and work in South County. It provides the type of desirable single-family housing that people in the South Bay are currently commuting to Riverside County for. Create increased housing diversity within the OTAY Ranch Master Plan by balancing higher densities associated with OTAY Ranch's multifamily development with lower density, predominantly single-family homes to ensure a balance of housing opportunities in the South County consistent with the OTAY Ranch Subregional Plan. Higher density multifamily housing, along with affordable housing components, are more appropriately located in close proximity to transit and other services within the City of Chula Vista portion of OTAY Ranch, as contemplated and approved in the OTAY Ranch General Development Plan. As part of the environmental review process for Alternative H, impacts to the QUINO checkerspot butterfly are mitigated by the preservation and conservation of approximately 1,107 on-site acres of critical habitat, and the implementation of a QUINO checkerspot butterfly management and enhancement plan, with specific performance standards to be funded in perpetuity. It is anticipated these robust mitigation measures, in concert with the efforts of the county and the City of Chula Vista, acting as the fully funded preserve owner and manager, will allow the approval of incidental take for the species. To secure incidental take authorization and mitigate for the impacts to QUINO checkerspot butterfly habitat, the applicant has filed an application with the Army Corps of Engineers and has requested the agency to take jurisdiction for the entire property for both wetland and habitat impacts. Through the interagency cooperation process known as Section 7 consultation, the Army Corps will consult with the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service and prepare a biological opinion for the species. Public safety is a high priority of the Board of Supervisors. Public safety and addressing the wild-and-urban interface are also of paramount concern to the development of this community. First and foremost, the construction of a permanent on-site fire station increases resources available to the San Diego County Fire Authority and CAL FIRE for emergency and wildfire response, while also providing fast response to any structure fires within the community. Alternative H is designed with the latest requirements for ignition-resistant communities. In addition to the on-site fire station, home construction includes measures such as non-combustible materials, fire sprinkler systems, and boxed eaves with ember-resistant vents. The Fire Safety Memorandum, included as part of the Alternative H final EIR, includes a conceptual resident evacuation program and a fire services agreement with the San Diego County Fire Authority. Improvements to OTAY Lakes Road will further reduce the risk of fire by providing buffers between the roadway and native habitat, as well as prohibiting parking. Gap funding of over $1 million annually for the on-site fire station operation will be funded by a CFD paid by the property owners of the resort village and not the county's general fund. Alternative H has been reviewed by the San Diego County Fire Authority and the county sheriff to ensure it meets all safety requirements of the public agencies. The resort village includes a fuel management zone designed around the perimeter of the community with a minimum of 120 feet separating the natural open space from habitable structures. This includes up to a 20-foot wide building restrictive easement on private property and a 100-foot wide fuel management zone. The fuel management zone includes an irrigated Zone A comprised of plant materials resistant to fire. Zone B is comprised of density-reduced native vegetation pruned to a maximum height of 48 inches and will be maintained by the Homeowners Association. Native trees are permitted on a limited basis. Improvements to Otay Lakes Road, beginning within the city of Chula Vista to the second village entry, provide the roadway capacity, if determined by emergency managers, to efficiently evacuate the community. These improvements enable the village to be evacuated in approximately 2 hours, a safety factor of 100% in the event a wildfire crosses State Route 94, which would reach the boundary of the community in 4 hours. The Otay Reservoir provides a natural buffer from wildfire to the south and west and ensures a higher level of safety for vehicular traffic from the community when traveling the short distance west to the city of Chula Vista. This eliminates the potential for the community to be surrounded by a wildfire that could prevent ingress and egress. The Alternative H Village Core is designed as the heart of the community. The second project entrance off Otay Lakes Road provides direct public access to a loop street that encompasses the public community park and elementary school. Immediately across the street from the park and school is a mixed-use site with neighborhood serving retail uses, multifamily housing, and a new fire station. The circulation system is pedestrian friendly with wide landscape parkways and sidewalks and protected bike lanes. The homeowners facility is conveniently located at a roundabout entrance to the residential community and provides additional recreational amenities and activities for community residents. The more compact design of Alternative H locates neighborhood parks in a convenient 10-minute walk from almost all resort village homes. A 10-acre public community park is located in the village core, which is approximately a 15-minute walk from the majority of homes. An HOA facility for community residents is located adjacent to the village core as well. A 4.1-mile multi-use trail along Otay Lakes Road connects to trailheads leading to the upper Otay Reservoir and the Otay River Valley. Improvements to Otay Lakes Road also include dedicated bike lanes all the way from Chula Vista to the eastern boundary of the project site. In addition to the internal network of walking paths and bike lanes, a 3.4-mile public perimeter trail connects to Otay Lakes Road and follows the preserve edge along the northern edge of the community. The resort village is part of the larger, previously approved vision of Otay Ranch, which includes the diverse land uses that comprise a complete master planned community and high quality of life. The resort village is not a greenfield project, as some might label it. Rather, it is part of the whole of the Otay Ranch master planned community, immediately adjacent to the city of Chula Vista, the second largest city in the county, and 18 miles from downtown San Diego. The implementation of Alternative H provides both economic and environmental benefits to the region. The establishment of a high-quality move-up community provides traditional single-family homes in a highly amenitized neighborhood, providing a home choice in short supply to the emerging industries in the South Bay and Otay Mesa. The Otay Ranch Resort Village Housing, Economic, and Land Use Analysis, prepared by London Motor Advisors, concluded a shortage of
Mr. Chairman, that concludes the time for the group presentation. We'll now move on to the individual speakers, and we'll be calling them by the last 4 digits of their phone number. And again, the callers will need to press *6 to unmute their phone, and we'll ask each caller to please state their name for the audio record. And again, the individual callers will have 3 minutes to address the board.
We'll begin with 3600. 3600.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Thank you. My name is David Hubbard. I'm an attorney with the firm of Gasky, Dillon & Balance, and we represent the applicant landowner on the Village 13 project. And I think really the one point that I would want to reiterate in my comments is that this project has been part of the county's land planning efforts since 1993. It was one of the hardline developments that was baked into the MSCP sub-area plan in 1997 and was reaffirmed when the county adopted the general plan update in 2011. The project as presented to you today, that is Alternative H, is not asking for anything more than what these county planning documents already provide. It is consistent with the 1993 GDP SRP. It is consistent with the county's current general plan, and it is consistent with the MSCP. So if the county's land planning process is to have integrity, if we want landowners to have faith in that process, then the county should approve those projects which are consistent with the operative planning documents. Otherwise, there is really no incentive for landowners to participate in such things as regional habitat planning, where they are asked to give up land that benefits conservation in exchange for development rights. That bargain only works if everyone honors it. So Village 13 is an example of an applicant playing by the rules and designing a project that conforms to the county's planning documents, and we would therefore ask that the Board of Supervisors approve it.
Scott here a little.
I'm happy to respond to any questions of the board. Thank you.
Thank you. Our next speaker is 6686. 6686.
Can you hear me?
We can hear you.
Okay. Good morning, Honorable Chairman Cox and members of the board. My name is Valerie Thompson. I'm the principal at Scientific Resources Associated and the environmental consultant that prepared the greenhouse gas emissions inventory for the Village 13 project EIR. I have more than 30 years of experience in preparing air quality and greenhouse gas emissions analyses for CEQA compliance purposes. As referenced in the correspondence that I submitted to the board in advance of this hearing, I'd like to focus my testimony here today on recently submitted evidence and analysis that serves to further substantiate the conservativeness of the quantification methodologies we use in estimating the greenhouse gas emissions inventories for the project. I will specifically address how greenhouse gas emissions from the project have been overestimated and why, as a result, under the current impact analysis and mitigation framework, the project will be over-mitigating for greenhouse gas emissions. That is, purchasing more carbon offsets than it needs to achieve the net zero GHG emissions level. As background, the emission inventories that were presented in the Village 13 project EIR were based on available models, methodologies, and regulatory actions that were in place at the time the analysis was prepared. Based on 2 memoranda that I have prepared and submitted to the board, the project's updated mitigation commitments result in additional greenhouse gas emission reductions on site that are not reflected in the EIR. Specifically, the project's commitment to construct all-electric, zero net energy single-family homes results in an additional 373 metric tons of CO2e reductions. The project's elimination of natural gas burning fireplaces from single-family and multifamily residences results in an additional 562 metric tons of CO2e reductions. The project's exceedance of the 2019 Title 24 standards by 15% in multifamily residences and non-residential buildings results in an additional 87 metric tons of CO2e reductions, and the project's prohibition of the utilization of gas-powered landscaping equipment results in an additional 7 metric tons of CO2e reductions. This culminates in an additional 1,029 metric tons of CO2e reductions that are not reflected in the EIR, but are reasonably expected to result from the project's greenhouse gas mitigation framework. Furthermore, there are additional greenhouse gas emission reductions from adopted and emerging regulatory compliance measures that were not accounted for in the project's greenhouse gas emission estimates. Specifically, the state's achievement of the 100% renewables portfolio standard by 2045 under SB 100 would result in an additional 2,982 metric tons of CO2e reductions. And achievement of the goal that 100% in-state sales of new passenger cars and trucks be zero emission by 2035 would result in another 4,600 metric tons of reductions by 2030 and 20,000 metric tons by 2050.
Thank you. Your time is up.
Thank you very much. I'll be happy to address any questions.
Thank you. Our next speaker is 1033. 1033.
Good morning, members of the board. This is Gary London. I am Senior Principal of London Mater Advisors, and we prepared the market study for the applicant in support of the project. And essentially, well, I presume that you have in front of you or have had access to our comprehensive report. So I'm not, obviously, in the couple of minutes I have, going to go to any detail to address the findings in detail of that report, but I just wanted to highlight a few things and then of course be available for to answer any questions. There's, as we all know, an overall deficiency in housing in the county. That deficiency has been with us for some years, and if you just look at SANDAG projections over the next 30 years, this is going to be a perpetual problem in the county. It's particularly a problem with respect to single-family homes. While I and many people, certainly many of my other clients, have been working on developing the multifamily housing in downtown San Diego and some of the other sort of urban areas of the region, the deficiency has been in the dearth of housing that has been available to be developed in the unincorporated areas and in the sort of green portions of San Diego that remain to be developed. And the particular need that we have in housing throughout the county is in the single family home area. That need is no less significant in South County. Even though South County has been an exceptional provider of single family homes over the years, we're projecting in the report that the availability of this kind of housing will be reduced over the coming years in South County in particular. In OTAY Ranch, this particular project is slated to be a major provider of single family homes. And so the opportunity to sort of, if not cure the deficiency, at least somewhat address the deficiency is there. And it's important because what we're trying to achieve in South County is a jobs housing balance. And we expect that there's going to be more jobs over the coming years in South County for the various projects that we all know exist and are developing down there. And we think that there's going to be a significant need for higher end housing, at least higher end housing relative to what's proportionally available in South County today. So if we provide executive homes at the subject site, it will be an order of magnitude less expensive pricing than we see, for instance, in the North City and the North County areas. And we think that that's going to provide a significant incentive for companies to continue to expand and relocate in South County. So the need for executive housing is there. So just in summary, I think that the report speaks for itself. It's an interesting report to read as well. And my time is up, but I just wanted to emphasize that that this project really just fulfill that demand for executive housing.
Thank you. Our next speaker is 2750. 2750.
Good morning, Chairman Cox, members of the board, Dan Silver, Endangered Habitats League. I'll raise a couple of points.
Experts say that this project would doom the QUINO butterfly in San Diego, or according to U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service on Alternative H, quote, the loss of this core population will likely preclude long-term conservation of the species. It is unlikely that a management plan would maintain the ecological function, unquote. When will the county take agency advice seriously instead of developers' consultants? Or is a resort village more important than God's creation? Regarding fire, according to REACT's engineering, quote, portions of Otay Lakes Road are therefore almost perfectly aligned with the wind direction under Santa Ana conditions. Consequently, a fire traveling from Hamul to the project footprint from the northeast or starting in the north part of the project may block large stretches of Otay Lakes Road simultaneously, unquote. According to the Attorney General, the FEIR neither acknowledges that risk nor assures that the community can be evacuated safely, unquote. In a memo submitted just last night, the developer's estimate of evacuation time has quadrupled. Are you aware of that? It wasn't in the staff report. How much would it balloon if a proper analysis were done? How can you even take this EIR on fire seriously? Profound and credible concerns have been raised by experts in the Attorney General. Can anyone on this dais tell me why it would not serve the public interest to take a timeout and address these matters of life and death? Or is it only the applicant's interest that counts? As far as the fire authority goes, how many traffic engineers does it have on staff to review self-serving technical information? The answer is 0. How credible is that? And DPDS is a rubber stamp. In conclusion, this does not comport with increasing wildfire, GHG imperatives, or endangered species that are not covered by the MSCP. At a minimum, please postpone it and take a hard and fresh look. Thank you.
Thank you. Our next caller is 8046. 8046.
Good morning, Chair Cox and Supervisors. This is Noah Harris, policy advocate with Climate Action Campaign, urging you to reject the proposed Otay Ranch Resort Village 13 project. With more than 4 million acres of burned California land this year, more than twice the previous record, there is no justification for continuing to pursue climate-harming sprawl in high-risk wildfire zones. Development in the wildlife-urban interface severely threatens our community members and already at-risk natural lands. What's more, transportation emits more greenhouse gas emissions than any other sector in our region. This project, far away from jobs in transit, will lock in decades of increased car pollution and vehicle miles traveled, only worsening the climate crisis. Approving high VMT projects like Village 13 is nothing less than climate change denial. Finally, carbon offsets heavily relied on in this project were at the core of the county's recently rescinded, fatally flawed climate action plan. This project contradicts local climate goals and state climate law and must be stopped. Please oppose Village 13. Thank you.
Thank you. Our next caller is 8569. 8569.
Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Oh, good. Chairman Cox, Supervisors, thank you for the opportunity to comment. My name is Frank Landis, and I'm speaking on behalf of the California Native Plant Society. This project has serious problems with native plants, wildfire, and climate change. Please reject it. First, there are major native plant issues in the FEIR. Failure to mitigate for the complete take of 1,200 rare List 1B Nuttall scrub oaks identified on the site, and failure to survey at the appropriate time to find 2 other List 1B species. Both of these should have stopped the project. I will note that none of these species is even mentioned in the findings you're being asked to sign off on, nor are they covered by the MSCP. If you read the comment I submitted on Monday, you're aware of the saga of the 1,200 Nuttall scrub oaks. This is a List 1B species, deserving of the same treatment as any listed species. However, the project proponents chose to designate the 6-acre stand as quote-unquote atypical, a small area, and the 1,200 oaks is an isolated number of plants, and therefore this is considered a less than significant impact. 1,200 oaks on 6 acres is insignificant and small. These are not dandelions. Atypical inland populations like this are going to be critical to the survival of the species under climate change. We need to protect scrub oaks because Unlike their bigger cousins, they seem to be relatively immune to oak borers and shothole borers. We particularly need to protect nettle scrub oaks because they have been decimated by development. Since mitigating for the loss of mature oaks by planting acorns will take decades, this impact should be avoided, not illegally ignored, contrary to CEQA. The second issue is failure to survey for two rare liverworts that might be present on site. The issue here is that the consultant DUDEC is one of the only firms that knows how to perform this work, and I know this because I trained two of their biologists on how to do it, and I notified them that Village 13 had likely habitat in time for them to do the survey. The survey would have taken a day, and the liverworts were abundant this last winter. Unfortunately, they did not survey for these very rare plants during the correct season, and this is also contrary to CEQA. Finally, the future creation of a revegetation plan is merely deferred mitigation, and that is also contrary to CEQA. As for wildfire issues, the area is in a very high fire hazard zone, and the standard CEQA checklist has 3 questions relating to projects in such zones. These questions do not appear to have been answered at all, so you're being asked to certify an incomplete hazards analysis. Moreover, the FEIR lacks substantial evidence that it's possible to create that the evacuation plan will mitigate the threat below this level of significance. Since the State Attorney General weighed in on this issue too, I simply suggest that the county take this problem very, very seriously. There's also a reminder that the entire state bears the cost of fighting OTAY fires. Therefore, we should all have a say in whether more people are put in harm's way. As for greenhouse gas emissions, the problem is that if there is an unlimited amount of carbon offsets available, they would also already be mitigating all of climate change. This is not happening. Sequestration opportunities are as rare as untapped coastal sage scrub, and up to 80% of them fail due to things like wildfires. You do not have substantial evidence that this will work. It is the equivalent to the developer assuming that there's a lot of coastal sage scrub out there for them to buy if they bulldoze the stuff they have. You're being asked to certify decades of future problems for the county, and I ask you to reject them and tell a developer to design for the 21st century. Thank you for taking these comments.
Thank you. Our next caller is 4313. 4313.
Lisa Cohen. Good morning. My name is Lisa Cohen. I'm the CEO of the Chula Vista Chamber of Commerce and the Chula Vista Convention Visitors Bureau. On behalf of my board of directors, we fully support this marvelous project. Village 13 Alternative H provides the type of desirable single-family housing that people in South Bay are currently commuting to Riverside County for. It provides much-needed housing needed for the continued expansion of business and industry in the southern portion of the county, and provides move-up housing for families in Chula Vista and surrounding communities who desire to remain in the area. It has been reviewed and approved for public safety by the San Diego County Fire Authority and Sheriff's Department. Village 13 Alternative H includes funding for the construction operation of the new fire station to enhance public safety in the village and surrounding communities. It is part of the previously approved OTAY Ranch Master Plan, and development of Village 13 has been part of the planning process since the 1980s. The resort and commercial uses will provide good jobs. It's a smart, walkable, net zero community. Again, net zero community with energy sustainability features. It will enhance the region with a network of public trails all around the development perimeter to connect to the existing trails in the county and the city of Chula Vista. It will include the construction of an on-site public elementary school to meet education demands. The 10-acre public park will be open to everyone, not just the residents of Village 13 Alternative H. It will preserve and protect over 1,100 acres of sensitive habitat that is home to many species. On behalf of my board of directors, we respectfully request your unanimous support for this wonderful and critical project. Thank you.
Thank you. Our next caller is 5806. 5806.
Hello, Honorable Supervisors. My name is Ben Stone, and I'm the Trails Coordinator for the San Diego Mountain Biking Association. I'm calling in today to voice my support for the Trails Plan in front of you today on Alternative H. We've been working with the developer since 2015, since the original proposal was put forward to the board. And we found that the applicant has been very open to our feedback from our association and the community, and we are very thankful for that. So once again, thank you for the opportunity to voice this today, but we are in support of the Trails Plan as proposed in Alternative H. Thank you.
Thank you. Our next caller is 2809. 2809.
Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
All right. This is Dr. Peter Anderson. I'm with the Conservation Committee of the Sierra Club, and I'm a resident of Hamul, just north of the project. We've heard that this project has been on the books since the 80s and master plan from 1993. But I want to remind you that we're in a climate emergency. A lot of California is burning down. The Gulf of Mexico has had a record number of hurricanes. We have droughts throughout the world, and we have sea rise that inundates our coastal communities. And yet, the developers and the board pretends that there's no climate emergency. So this is not 1993. This is not 1980s. This is 2020. Likewise, you are a lame duck board voting at a time when the voters have resoundingly called for a change of direction. And I urge you to either table this motion so that we can further consider this with a new board that the voters have elected just recently. Next, the amount of greenhouse gas here is substantial. It increases vehicles mile traveled. You just heard a consultant talk about the Great Greenhouse Gas Plan, but she did not consider the loss of chaparral, which is a greenhouse gas sink. And I've provided for the county on several prior occasions studies from our own San Diego State University that shows that chaparral and coastal sage scrub absorb about as much carbon as a hardwood forest. My next point is that this project will be absolutely subject to litigation, certainly by Sierra Club, maybe by several other organizations. And the county keeps putting forward climate action plans and projects that are losers in court. This is fiscally irresponsible and a waste of taxpayers' money. Please consider that this project will probably never be built, and it'll cost the county of San Diego legal fees for both their attorneys and for our attorneys. Likewise, the Attorney General may weigh in because the Attorney General has given you a very detailed letter suggesting that this project is at huge risk for wildfire. And in fact, the Attorney General and others have detailed this. And I want to just conclude by saying that, you know, there's a bad bargain between the fire authorities of San Diego County who rely on development fees. No development fees, no financing of the fire authority. So you really can't consider them as honest brokers in this project because their self-interest requires ongoing sprawl developments like this one. Please postpone this or reject it. Thanks for your consideration.
Thank you. Our next caller is 7999. 7999. And if we don't hear from you when we call out your phone number, we will come back to you before we close public testimony on this item. So we will move on to 9200. 9200.
Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Chairman Cox and Supervisors, thank you for the opportunity to comment. My name is Richard Richardson, and I support this proposal. I'm a nearby resident in Eastlake, almost adjacent to the proposed Village 13. This proposal provides much needed and desirable housing for the continued expansion of business and industry in the southern portion of the county and provides a range of housing, including move-up housing for local families. This is a well-designed community that will be a great place to live and raise a family with needed road improvements and extension of South County's trail network. I understand the fire and environmental concerns. As a long-term resident of Chula Vista, I recall the same fire and environmental concerns over 20 years ago when the transitional Eastlake development was considered extending Chula Vista to the east. Today, we know that Eastlake has been able to be defended by wildfire threat, and this project has been approved for public safety by the San Diego County Fire Authority and the Sheriff's Department. And there is an existing fire station just down the street from my house along OTAY Lakes Road, within less than a 5-minute drive to the village along OTAY Lakes Road. In our family, we often talk about the lack of housing in San Diego and how that will impact our daughter's future. No one ever wants to displace nature to provide more housing, but in a growing region, we must have more housing that is well planned, that is walkable, bikeable, and smart net zero housing, such as this proposal, to meet the needs of residents today and tomorrow. I encourage your support of this proposal. Thank you.
Thank you. Our next caller is 9201. 9201. And again, if you don't respond when we call your phone number, we'll come back to you before the end of this item. We'll move on to 9791. 9791.
Good morning.
Good morning.
I'm Bob Kennedy with OTAY Water. I'm here representing OTAY Water and am available for any questions that has to do with the water supply assessment verification report. Thank you.
Thank you. And then we will go back to 9201, who also unmuted simultaneously. So 9201, you may proceed.
Good morning. Excuse me. Good morning, Supervisors. I'm Carmen Richardson, and I support the OTAY Ranch Resort Village project. I am speaking as a resident of Eastlake 3 HOA. Our HOA will literally be next door to the new proposed OTAY Ranch Resort Village project. This project is in my backyard. And while I would love to keep everything exactly as it is today in my neighborhood footprint, that is simply not the reality as our city grows and expands. I can attest the long-term value of the importance of a well-planned development that meets current and future needs of residents and to build communities our children want to raise their own families. When Eastlake 3 was proposed more than 20 years ago, which includes the Olympic Training Center, the exact same concerns brought forth by citizens and local residents today regarding the environment, the impact of the development, congestion, safety, schools, and all the issues that we have heard today were mitigated with a well thought out development plan. Baldwin & Sons has thought for years the best development plan for our area to meet current and future needs. What I enjoy today, my family walks outside our door and has immediate access to trails to our local city parks. My children walk to school. I currently coach high school mountain biking where we train around OTAY Lakes and we share our trails with our homes, with our cars, with our bikes, with our kids. And what we have learned is there is a way to share all these natural resources while taking responsible steps to mitigate the harm to the environment. As it currently stands, only a few thousand residents in Chula Vista enjoy such amenities of our planned community, and we are full. There is simply not an equitable balance for other residents to come in unless there is more development. This project is not an if, but a when a proposal to build out further east will be approved. While I am concerned about environmental impact, as we all should be, I am more concerned this type of project will be awarded to a developer in the future who is not vested in the long-term quality of Chula Vista. Today, the Board of Supervisors has the opportunity to approve and select a development plan from a highly respected developer in Chula Vista who's taken years to research these issues we were brought forth today and build us a community that meets today's needs as well as tomorrow. I hope you will make the decision today to select Baldwin & Sons to guarantee the high quality of this development. Thank you.
Thank you. Our next speaker is 9983. 9983.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Okay, thank you. My name is Laura Hunter with the Wildlife Habitat Conservation Coalition, and I want to thank you for standing up yesterday, for standing up for public health when you acted to protect us from the spread of COVID. Today, I'm asking you to stand up for public safety. This issue of fire is very, very significant. It is not resolved, and I was worried about it before, and now that I've heard the comments and the plan, I'm doing air quotes, for protection, I'm even more worried. The Attorney General has written to you and urged you to dig deeper into this issue, and I fully support that and ask you to postpone. A wind-driven wildfire will overwhelm any of these, alleged buffers, and a 2.5-hour evacuation, it will not wait for that. The idea that a wider road will protect families is just magical thinking. I was up in North County during several of our wind-driven wildfires, and the fire near me jumped 10 lanes of I-15 in a second, raced up hundreds of feet of alleged buffer, and burned houses in Loma Serena in minutes. You don't have the plan. It's not right. And so I would ask you to postpone this in the future. I also want to say agencies and the experts on that as well. In conclusion, a wider road will not protect families from a wind-driven wildfire, the type we have here. More sprawl will not address climate change, and more executive homes will not help address our housing crisis. We need a different kind of planning that's transit-based, transit-oriented, and I urge you not to vote on this today until many of these issues are resolved. Thank you.
Thank you. Our next caller is 0156. 0156. Zero 156. If not, we also have 7999. 7999. Would either 0156 or 7999 like to address the board? We're approaching the end of public testimony, so this is the last call for the two of you. I will also note that we have a number of applicants' representatives who are on the call. If any of you wish to address the board and are not just joining to listen in, if you could please press *9 at this time to raise your hand and we will call on you. Again, if you are a consultant and would like to address the board, please press *9 and we will call on you. I see 5578 would like to address the board, 5578. And it looks like we have 0156 who's ready to speak as well right now. So let's start with 0156 and then we'll go to 5578 after that. So 0156, please state your name and you may proceed.
Thank you. Good morning. This is George Corser with Sierra Club San Diego. And I'm reiterating Sierra Club San Diego's repeated communications of opposition. We find the county's actions bringing this project forward as an affront to your constituents. Also to the California Superior Court, the California Court of Appeal, and most recently, Attorney General Javier Becerra. And while failing in nearly all aspects of human and environmental protections, among the most egregious and intentional abuses is the attempt to dodge responsibility for greenhouse gas generation, following the same desperate and failed legal path resulting in 3 published California appeal court decisions against the county. The county's attempt to offset up to 84% of the project's generated GHG virtually guarantees a 4th judgment against the county. Please face these facts and send this back to your staff for correction. In an October 9th hearing before the Superior Court judge, here are the portions of transcripts that were directed to county council and that our supervisors must be made aware of going forward. From page 9 of a long transcript, the judge said, "I am not instructing them to exercise to create a plan that says A, B, C, D, or all the way to Z. I just want them to do it. And do it because, frankly, don't take this the wrong way, but 3 strikes, you're out. This case has been hanging around for a decade, 8 years, going on 9. Every time there's been a decision made, it's been against the county and in favor of the petitioners. And every time this, debatable exception there's been affirmatives by the court made. When is the county going to get it? When is the county going to that this needs to be taken care of? Page 17. And I think we are talking about a hypothetical future problem that, frankly, if the Sierra Club is offered a place at the table in whatever discussions are going about how to comply with this, and the county listens to them this time, there never will be another problem because they'll do what needs to be done to comply with the rule. That's how I see it. I'm not deciding in advance that the board is limited in carrying out its obligations. I appreciate that there are new members coming on the board and that they may decide, go to a new direction, and I hope so. The Padres got swept in 3 games. The county has been swept in the Court of Appeal. It's time to, do something different, and I don't know how better to get that through than require what your adversaries have proposed that I require.
Thank you.
And you file a schedule.
Thank you. Your time is
And
up.
if that schedule is not made, then please, I understand there could be a new general plan in the future. Thank you.
Thank you. We will move on to 5578. 5578, please press *6 to unmute.
Good morning, Board of Supervisors. This is Valerie Itaret-Tagoyena with AECOM. I'd like to cede my time so the applicant can finish their presentation.
Under the board's rules of procedure, ceding your time to another speaker is not allowed.
We will move on to 5195, who also indicated another person who wanted to speak. 5195.
Good morning. Good morning. This is Jim Whalen in support of the project. First, thanks to staff. This project has been underway for 16 years. It's clearly not being rushed to completion. I have to say a couple comments on the MSCP. This project is a culmination of the OTAY Ranch Preserve contribution and is salutary in that very right. It's MSCP consistent except for the QUINO, and we are handling those negotiations individually like was done on Village 14 and other projects of QUINO. For Supervisor Jacobs' recollection, I want to remind her of a letter in 1996 that Secretary Babbitt and Undersecretary Mantell committed that species not covered by the MSCP will still be afforded high-level protection, and the onus to conserve is on the wildlife agencies. Nonetheless, Village 13 stepped up and is addressing the QUINO once again at the project level. And finally, we are going to be meeting with the wildlife agencies on an ongoing basis to resolve the QUINO questions and leverage the complete compliance of the project with the original MSCP from 1997. I'll stop right there. Thank you very much.
Thank you. And this is the final call for the caller with phone number 7999. 7999. If you'd like to address the board, please press *6 to unmute yourself now. This is the final person on the line. So seeing no activity with that, Chairman Cox, I believe that concludes public testimony on this item.
Okay, thank you very much. And again, we appreciate all the speakers this morning, both in support of and in opposition to this project. Does staff have need to respond to any of the issues that have been raised by any of the speakers?
Chairman Cox, yes, we'd like to respond to a number of the concerns that were raised today. Starting with the first comment was in regards to the evacuation time for the project being increased. That is incorrect, Supervisor. The additional analysis that was provided was in regards to the evacuation time for the existing Hamul community. The applicant's analysis demonstrated that with the additional improvements to OTAY Lakes Road, and the project, the evacuation time for the existing community would actually decrease with the project. In regards to, there was a comment about the revegetation plan being a deferral of CEQA. That is incorrect. There are specific goals and standards that are developed as part of that revegetation plan that will have to be met in order to achieve the criteria that have been developed. And another point that was raised was regarding that we do not calculate the loss of carbon sequestration from the removal of vegetation on the property. That is also incorrect. In the modeling that is done for the greenhouse gas emissions, they do have factors for the types of vegetation on the property, including coastal sage scrub and grassland. That is all factored into the loss of greenhouse gas from the site, and it is also part of what is going to be mitigated through the applicant's mitigation proposal to purchase carbon offset credits. I'm going to ask the staff biologist, Ashley Smith, to particularly address the concerns related to the QUINO butterfly as well.
Yes, Chairman Cox, in regards to the QUINO checkerspot butterfly, as is standard for discretionary permit entitlements, which could result in impacts to a listed species, this project is conditioned to provide evidence of take authorization for the QUINO checkerspot butterfly prior to the recordation of the first final map which would impact this species. The project is also conditioned to provide a QUINO management and enhancement plan, which details 6 specific performance standards. Also, in regard specifically to the comments raised for liverworts, there's no specific survey protocol in place for this type of species. All appropriate vegetation and rare plant surveys were conducted for the project and appropriate mitigation was applied. Finally, in regards to the Nuttall's scrub oak that was raised by a commenter, the species was identified on site within a 6.2 acre area of the project site, and the project is conditioned to mitigate for impacts to the species through an upland restoration plan. And neither the OTAY Ranch RMP2 or the BMO require specific mitigation requirements for this species.
That concludes our responses, Supervisor.
Thank you very much. I have a couple of questions I'd like to raise at this time. And I mean, clearly one of the most compelling arguments on any project that's being built anywhere in San Diego County is in regard to fire safety and the impact of fires. We've obviously seen some horrific fires in this county in 2003 and 2007. And I think we learned a lot of lessons. I know Supervisor Jacob, I think, deserves a lot of credit for working on this issue, and the creation of the San Diego County Fire Authority, I think, was a major step forward. We do have, I see in the chambers, Chief Tony Meacham, who is not only the CAL FIRE chief for San Diego County, but he's also the chief of our San Diego County Fire Authority. And Chief, I wanted to ask a couple of questions to you. I mean, obviously there's been issues raised by a number of speakers about the fire safetyness of this project. There's a letter from the Attorney General, which has been presented to us. And I note in that letter that it seems like the Environmental Habitat League was, their communications were used a lot in that letter. Chief, I'm wondering, did you have any direct communications from the Attorney General's office in regards to this project?
Chairman Cox, the Fire Authority had no communication with the Attorney General's office in relation to fire safety for the OTAY Village 13 project.
Do you know if they sent anybody down to take a look at the land and look at the plans?
I'm not aware of that.
Okay, well, in my opinion, you're the fire expert. And I'd like to know from your perspective, and hear words out of your mouth in regards to how you look at this project from a fire safety standpoint. You've had a chance to look at other projects in the unincorporated area of the county. How does this project kind of stack up against others that you've had a chance to review?
Thank you, Super. I'll start with an overview. Our perspective is that every project that moves forward has some level of risk, but our staff takes very seriously fire safety in San Diego County, and we've learned a lot over the last 10 to 15 years, including extensive evaluation of the recent fires that have occurred since 2017. This project, of all the projects that we bought before this board, is probably the safest from a fire safety standpoint. It incorporates all of the lessons learned. Although it sits in a very high hazard area, that triggers State Building Standards 7A The structures within the village are built to the highest safety standards to guard against embers. The fuel type in this area is low coastal sage and grass, which on average will give us flame lengths of about 35 feet on a worst case scenario. The project provides 100 to 200 feet of defensible space and irrigated fuel modification around the project to limit those impacts. The project has been reconfigured to make it a more clustered, dense development. It has dropped the development below the ridge lines. There's exterior trails which are conducive for us to conduct firefighting operations. And specifically in regards to evacuation, which always seems to be an issue, they are widening OTAY Lakes Road to 4 lanes. It is 3,000 feet from the roundabout till you reach the urban area of Chula Vista, so it's a very, very short travel time. And because we have lake frontage on one side, fire is not going to envelop this community. So we have spent hundreds of analysis with staff that have cumulative over 100 years of fire experience. We've involved third-party consultants, and we've been looking at this project for a long time. And I would never bring a recommendation of approval to this board if we did not feel that all of the fire safety issues had been addressed.
Would you say that this is a fire-safe community based on best practices and building codes and all the other things you just cited?
Yes, sir, I would.
Let me ask a question of staff. Obviously, a number of speakers have raised issues in regards to the QUINO CHECKERSPOT butterfly and the San Diego fairy shrimp, I guess is the other species that wasn't covered under the MSCP. Have we received any communications from either the California Fish and Wildlife Service or U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service in opposition to this project? And just kind of maybe go over very quickly, how are those 2 species going to be handled since they weren't covered under the MSCP?
Chairman Cox, we have received correspondence from both the agencies. Those correspondence indicate that they are willing to sit down with the applicant and negotiate the permitting process to provide take authorization for those 2 species you listed. And what is being required of the applicant as a condition of their approval is that they will have to obtain that take authorization prior to any construction occurring on the property. So they will have to secure that before they can move forward with the project.
So if we were to approve this project today, there's still other steps that they will have to address with the resource agencies in order to get the ability to move forward with this project.
That's correct.
Okay. And then in regards to the greenhouse gas emissions, another significant issue. Relate to me again, what else could this project do to deal with greenhouse gases on this particular development site? And then what's the sequence if they don't have the ability to entirely mitigate on site?
Chairman Cox, they have implemented every measure that they can on site. That includes all electric homes, solar power, the building efficiencies that they are providing, the transportation demand management, all of the items that we went over in our presentation. Through those measures, they're going to reduce their emissions by 16%. That constitutes about 154,000 metric tons of greenhouse gas emissions. The remaining 84% will have to be mitigated off-site, and that's through the purchase of carbon offset credits. Now, there is a locational hierarchy to those purchases. They will contract with a third-party independent carbon offset broker who will do an evaluation of what credits are available locally. If there are no credits available locally, then they will pursue credits at the state level. If there are credits available at the state level, they will be required to purchase those. If they need additional credits, then they would look throughout the United States. We have removed the ability for them to look internationally for carbon offset credits, and they are only able to purchase them from 3 particular registries. Those 3 registries are approved by the California Air Resources Board, and they are only allowed to purchase carbon offsets that follow the specific protocols that were put out for public comment as part of this project. The third-party independent broker will also do an evaluation to determine and confirm that the reductions that are part of those protocols have all been completed. Those will be conditions of the project. Before they can construct, they will be purchasing carbon offsets to offset the construction emissions for the project. And then prior to any construction of homes, they will be purchasing carbon offsets to offset the operational emissions for those particular number of units.
So is this project consistent with all the requirements of the California Air Resources Board as far as the hierarchy and purchase of greenhouse gas emission credits?
Chairman, the California Air Resources Board doesn't have a hierarchy, but they have have those 3 registries that they have approved for the use of carbon offset credits, and those are the only 3 that the project will be able to purchase credits from.
Okay. Well, I appreciate the input we've received from the public. I'm gonna move to approve the OTAY Ranch Village 13 project as presented, with the 3 additional conditions that staff identified at the beginning of their presentation. I don't have it in front of me right this second, but I'm sure staff will relate what those 3 additional conditions are. If there's a second to my motion.
I'll second the motion, Chair.
Just a couple of comments. Here they are right here. That would include to prohibit the use of any plants listed on the prohibited plant list on all landscape plans and on private lots through the Homeowners Association CCRs, to change the word may to shall and mitigation measures M-B, I believe it's I-9B QUINO management / enhancement plan to require all listed performance measures. And 3, the project shall not utilize any of the 3 carbon offset protocols listed by the Climate Action Reserve under the Climate Forward program to mitigate for the project's construction-related emissions, and all carbon offsets used for operational emissions must be retired within 30 years. And if that's agreeable to the seconder, we'll include that in the motion.
Yes, it is.
I, have watched this project now for 31 years. In 1989, the OTAY Ranch passed from private ownership into the ownership of the Baldwin brothers. And they started working with the city of Chula Vista and the county of San Diego to figure out where they could get the best development opportunities. My predecessor on the Board of Supervisors, Brian Bilbray, and I got together and thought, this could become a kind of an ugly contest between the city of Chula Vista and the county of San Diego, basically going into a bidding war between the 2 jurisdictions. And so we took what I thought was a very enlightened approach then, and that was to let's put the jurisdictional issues aside and let's see if we can get the developer to pay for a plan that makes sense for the entire region. And that's exactly what happened. The Baldwin brothers agreed to basically fund what turned out to be about a 4.5, 5-year process to develop what has now been approved by the county of San Diego and the city of Chula Vista as the OTAY Ranch plan. That plan envisioned, I think it was 17 or 18 different villages that would be developed over the course of the next, from 1993, next 40 years. And we're not too far off the mark in regards to the number of years it'll probably take to develop the OTAY Ranch. The envisioned, the plan actually envisioned that a good portion of those projects and those villages would be actually developed in the city of Chula Vista, and a number of them have been developed, and a couple of them are still currently being planned. So I recall, I think there was 4 or 5 villages that would have been developed in the unincorporated area of the county. That include villages 13, 14, I think 15, 16, and I believe there was a 17. A number of those villages have been purchased by the resource agencies, some by others as mitigation banks for other projects. So the only 2 villages that will be developed in the unincorporated area of the county is Village 13 and Village 14, which just the board approved in June of this year. I know the city of Chula Vista had interest at one point to go ahead and annex villages 13 and 14 to the city of Chula Vista because they're immediately contiguous to the city. And so for those that say that this is leapfrog development, I think has been demonstrated by CAL FIRE and the presentation, it is immediately adjacent to the city of Chula Vista. So whether it develops in the city of Chula Vista or the county of San Diego is really immaterial in regards to the development plans that have been presented to us. As I mentioned, the OTAY Ranch got numerous awards because it was way ahead of its time as far as setting aside land for habitat preservation. Out of 23,000 acres, I think there's over 12,000 acres that was originally planned to be dedicated as permanent open space. And because some of the other villages have been purchased for their resource value, it's even a higher percentage of the OTAY Ranch. And keep in mind, the OTAY Ranch is about the same size in acreage as the city and county of San Francisco. I think the county of San Diego and the city of Chula Vista deserve a lot of credit for the forethought that they've given to the development of this plan and the sensitive way in which it's been developed, setting aside land for open space, for habitat, putting in trails, requiring early development of schools, and as this project will include a fire station that will be available within 5 minutes to any of the homes that are being developed as a result of this project, and certainly backed up by Chula Vista Fire Department and other CAL FIRE stations in closer proximity. So we have a plan that is consistent with the OTAY Ranch Development Plan, as approved by the Board of Supervisors in 1993. We have a plan that is consistent with the MSCP, which was approved by this Board of Supervisors in 1997. We have a plan that is consistent with the general plan update that the Board of Supervisors approved in 2011. To see some of the groups that have indicated their opposition to this come out now in opposition, I think is unfortunate, because I know a number of those organizations have supported the general plan and basically have chided us in the past for not following the general plan. Well, we are following the general plan with this project, and I think it's something that we need to realize that, as one of the speakers said, we're in a climate crisis. Yes, we are. And yet I think this project has gone above and beyond the call of duty to try to address the concerns about greenhouse gases and certainly the efforts that have been made to make sure that there's the appropriate vegetation that is made a part of this project. But I would also point out that we're in a housing emergency. This plan will provide additional housing for people throughout this region. We all know the housing crisis that we're in, and I think this project is one that has probably been better designed than most I've seen over the years of my service in government service. It checks all the boxes as far as what we need to do to protect the environment, to deal with fire management and making sure that it's a fire-safe community, which again, I think we should rely on our experts to give us that opinion. I think, as our staff has pointed out, they've done everything they possibly can to mitigate greenhouse gases on site and are going through the normal steps in regards to dealing with additional credits that they may have to purchase, and doing that in a sequential manner, so that first we look within San Diego County and then the state of California if they're not able to achieve that here in San Diego County. So it's for all of these reasons that I believe that this is a good project. I believe it's one that checks all the boxes, and I would hope that my colleagues would support it today. Additional speakers.
Mr. Chairman, I have a couple of comments and a question, if I could. First of all, I remember way back when also, in being a part of the development of the entire OTAY Ranch plan, and it was a huge endeavor because of the large acreage of the plan. And I can also remember in 1993 talking to then Supervisor Brian Bilbray, and we sat down and he laid out a map on a table, and my interest was protecting the unincorporated area to stay unincorporated and to avoid what I would call city creep. In other words, the city of Chula Vista continuing to go more north and east into the unincorporated area. So at that time, we had agreed to draw a line. It was basically through the middle of the lake, and you probably remember that too. And so the city of Chula Vista would stay to the south of the lake, and then the unincorporated to the north. And there was a lot of interest at the time for this resort area to be a part of the city of Chula Vista. I hope that that issue does not surface itself at some point in time, because I think particularly when we look at the fire aspects of this and the urban interface, we must draw the line somewhere. No question, this is adjacent to the city of Chula Vista. It's not like it's leapfrog development. And whether we draw the line south of this project or right to the north, the eastern northern edge of the project, I guess is the biggest question. And looking at the development itself, it's a well-planned development. There's absolutely no question about it. And it's been in the works for a long, long time. And I appreciate the time and the effort that's put into it and the mitigation measures. I'd like to ask one question though, because my concern, and as we heard at the hearing today, once again, we've been threatened with litigation. And I wonder if Peter Anderson and Dan Silver are still on the line, because my question has to do and would be to them, is there a way to resolve the issues that have been raised by the Sierra Club and the Endangered Habitats League? So Peter and Dan, if you're on the line, in your opinion.
Yes, Peter is still here.
Okay. Is there a way to resolve the issues to avoid litigation?
Well, it is. You know, we've been ordered by the court to meet with the county, and we're in negotiations with them on a climate action plan. This project is not consistent with the court's decision on the climate action plan, and so we will be back in court if this goes through. The way to do this is to delay it today, to defer consideration of this project, because the mitigation for this is not consistent with the court decision to require all in-county mitigation. And plus, you're not going to be able to find mitigation properties within the county of San Diego, and probably not even within the state of California. And so the mitigation may not be real, may not be observable, and it will not be enforceable. And so this will die in court. Now, George Courser read you from Judge Taylor's decision saying, county, 3 strikes, you're out. Get it right this time. And it's cynical to try to push this project through with a lame duck board. No offense to the incumbents, but a new day is dawning with the board, and you need to let the new board do this and allow us to negotiate a reasonable project with the developer. So yes, it can be avoided, but if this is approved today, it can definitely not be avoided.
So Peter, you're saying that the issues before the court on the climate action plan can be resolved from your standpoint?
Absolutely. You know, we're in very good negotiations with your consultant, Jim Moose, and Sarah Agassi, and your whole excellent team. And I've been very impressed with the quality of your team. They really care about climate. But this project just flies in the face of it. This is a project that will massively increase greenhouse gas. Only 16% of it can be mitigated. And if you mitigate it elsewhere, that means San Diegans have to breathe the foul air produced by extra air pollution within the county.
Okay,
So,
Peter,
yep.
okay, I get it.
Yep.
Excuse me for interrupting you, but then my follow-up question is, if there's agreement on the cap, then would you support this project?
If the project would conform to the new cap, which is a project in works, then probably yes. But it may not conform to the new cap. This is being pushed through while there is no climate action plan in the county of San Diego, because the court has declared the last 2 versions of that illegal, and the appellate court has upheld that in both cases. So it's questionable. It would have to be consistent with the new cap before you get any support from us.
Thank you, Peter.
Thank you, Diane.
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to ask council and staff then basically the same question. I guess the reason I'm asking the question is we have lost 3 times. We've spent millions of dollars because we've lost in court. I would like some assurance from our council, our attorneys, and also from county staff that if this project is approved, the same thing that we've experienced before is not going to happen again, that we go to court, we lose in court, and it costs the taxpayers millions of dollars. So give me some assurance.
Supervisor Jacob, just to clarify on a few things, the recent CAP case did not prevent the use of GHG offsets by projects. And it didn't require that all mitigation occur in county. It did put additional parameters on the use of offsets. And as staff explained to you earlier, the offsets that were designed for the project were designed to address those issues. Our office has reviewed the EIR and supporting documents with county staff for the project and feel that all the CEQA issues have been adequately addressed and that the conclusions are supported by substantial evidence.
So we get sued, we go to court again, we still don't have a cap, and we're gonna win?
We have a defensible argument, and we believe that the substantial evidence supports the documents. Obviously, you know, there are no guarantees in life, but we believe that we have adequately mitigated all the risks.
Since this project is compliant with the general plan, does that change the legal requirements in regards to the cap or not?
I'm not sure how to answer that question. There is no cap currently. You know, if a cap is revised and adopted, then future projects will be analyzed consistent with that cap.
Excuse me, I guess I didn't ask that question quite as it should have been, but I guess my question gets at, do we need compliance? Do we need to comply with the cap? In other words, to have a legally defensible climate action plan in regards to this project, since the project conforms to the general plan?
Supervisor Jacob, there's nothing in the cap litigation that would prevent this project from going forward right now or acting on the project. So it's looked at with the consistency with the existing general plan.
And if I may weigh in, Mr. Witt, is it also correct that this project isn't relying on the climate action plan, if you want to share some of that information?
Yes, as Sarah alluded to, the project is not relying on the climate action plan. It had an independent GHG analysis that was conducted. And so for additional information on that, I would refer back to either Mark or Randall.
Supervisor, through the chair, the greenhouse gas analysis that was performed, they established their own independent threshold. For the particular project, they established a threshold of net zero GHG emissions. As we highlighted in the presentation, that goes above and beyond what would have been required under the 2018 cap. If they would have implemented the cap measures that were adopted as part of the 2018 cap, it would have resulted in a reduction in about 140,000 metric tons of emissions. However, those remaining emissions from the project would have still happened without mitigation. So the project, by implementing a net zero threshold, exceeds those requirements and is actually offsetting the remaining emissions, which equates to around 878,000 metric tons of greenhouse gas emissions.
Thank you, Mark, and thank you, John, for that. I guess based on what I have heard in this hearing, both sides, I'm inclined to support it, but I'd like to hear from the rest of my colleagues.
Any additional comments by members of the board?
Chairman Cox, if I may, I think that there is a lot to like about this project, and I in the past have had concerns with plans that were not consistent with the general plan. I believe this one is. From a density standpoint, it is consistent with that plan, and I also think that there are a lot of issues that have been laid out that are well thought out and planned for. My reluctance today at this point is the issue that's been raised, is that we are very close to resolving a series of lawsuits that have been going on for years and years and years, in which the county has pretty consistently lost. And there is an effort to get a legally enforceable cap that will resolve the issues that Judge Taylor has told us about time and time again. And then we can assess a project to say, is it general plan consistent? Is it cap consistent? And that would provide some certainty moving forward. And so I'm not prepared today to support this project because I want us to focus our energy and efforts around resolving this outstanding litigation, accepting the court's ruling, which we as a board have decided not to appeal, which means we're accepting it, getting in place a settlement with those parties, a cap that we think is consistent, and then being able to put projects through the filter of a viable climate action plan and the general plan and get to a point of consistency where we can improve projects where housing actually gets built that doesn't face years and years and years of endless litigation. We often hear that no matter what you do, you get sued, but the simple reality is we're not getting sued over general plan consistent projects under a climate action plan if we had one that was legally enforceable and consistent with the court's views. And so at this point today, I'm not prepared to support this project for that reason. I want us to focus our energy and effort around resolving these issues. We think there is some good momentum and energy around the settlement talks, and I think we should get that done and then come back and take a look.
Thank you, Supervisor. I'd like to ask a question of staff. I certainly agree we need to have a defensible climate action plan. Although again, this project I think has preceded the requirements to do that. What is the staff's estimation in regards to how long it would take to get a climate action plan approved, brought before the Board of Supervisors for consideration? What's the time frame we'd be looking at?
Chairman, our current work schedule looks at us bringing forward the new draft climate action plan to the board at the end of 2022.
Okay, so in essence, approximately 2 years.
Yes.
Okay, thank you. Are there additional comments from board members?
Yeah, Mr. Chair.
Vice Chairman Desmond.
Thank you very much. Well, I want to thank all the speakers that have come out today. You know, we've heard the concerns regarding fire safety, evacuation, traffic impacts, greenhouse gas and biological impacts, and also the litigation impacts. The fact that we, don't have a climate action plan at this point in time. But I think this project has been in process for many, many years. And the fact that we don't have a climate action plan doesn't mean we have to stop all projects moving forward, particularly those that comply with not only the general plan, but also with the MSCP that's in place. So I've got confidence in our fire chief that he's performed a comprehensive review of the project, and he's confirmed that it's a fire safe project. He's our expert in the county on that, and I trust him. Our sheriffs has demonstrated they can adequately evacuate not only the future residents of Village 13, but the surrounding community as well. Our planning staff, every time they've done a comprehensive impact analysis and have conditioned to improve roads and intersections and ensure traffic is mitigated. They've even worked out with the applicant with Chula Vista to make sure their roads and we're not going to be they were going to settle the mitigation of any impacts in Chula Vista. The greenhouse gases will be reduced with an on-site design measures such as solar and all electrical appliances through third parties. I think this is fantastic. It's showing real progress and real effort in trying to deal with greenhouse gases and trying to deal with the environment on site. I think it's one of the most progressive and forward projects I've seen. Lastly, that it does comply with the MSCP, which in the development footprint that will match what was approved and agreed to by the wildlife agencies. And the project will be conditioned to go through the permit process for those species not covered in the MSCP. And I certainly do have concerns that we have opposition on the biological impacts for this project. When the development footprint has been approved through the South County MSCP by all parties, including the county, the wildlife agencies, and other environmental stakeholders. This, kind of proves my reluctancy of actually approving or going forward with a North County MSCP, because whatever is negotiated or approved by the agencies needs to be upheld and not picked apart later or continued threatening of litigation when projects go through the permitting process by the on approved projects through the MSCP. So for those reasons, I'm going to be supporting the project today, and I look forward to hopefully someday, seeing the project under construction. Thank you.
Okay, are there any additional comments? Seeing none, we have a motion by myself, seconded by Supervisor Gaspar, to approve the staff recommendations with the 3 additional conditions. Mr. Clerk, is there anything else you need to cover?
There's not, Mr. Chairman. Thank you.
Okay, if you go ahead and call the roll.
Thank you. Chairman Cox?
Aye.
Supervisor Jacob?
Aye.
Supervisor Gaspar?
Aye.
Supervisor Fletcher?
Fletcher, no.
Vice Chairman Desmond?
Aye.
Chairman Cox, that motion passes with Supervisor Fletcher voting no, all other supervisors being present and voting aye.
Okay, thank you very much. And again, we appreciate all the commenters on the last item. We'll proceed on now to item number 8, which is a notice public hearing and ordinance amending the San Diego County Administrative Code to develop a pilot program to waive certain building permit fees associated with renewable energy projects. And I'll ask if there's a staff presentation on this.
There's a staff presentation, Mr. Chairman, and before that begins, any members of the public that have requested to speak on this item, please dial into the conference line now using the instructions that were provided to you. You will be muted until it is your turn to speak. Thank you.
Good morning. I'm Dennis Howe, Building Chief with Planning and Development Services. On August 25th, 2020, the board directed staff to expand the county's renewable energy fee waiver program to a pilot and expansion of several additional permit categories. Sustainability is a core component of planning and development services. Over the years, the department has implemented and expanded programs that incorporate sustainability within our communities. In recent years, the County of San Diego has amended the county building code to increasingly expand sustainability requirements. This new program would continue the County of San Diego's commitment to promoting renewable energy and sustainability. Today's request is the first reading to consider the adoption of the proposed ordinance to codify and implement that board direction. The board directed staff to include the following renewable energy categories in the fee waiver pilot program: residential electric vehicle charging systems, residential energy storage, residential panel upgrades associated with renewable energy, electrical vehicle charging, or battery storage, and residential wind. No amendment to the San Diego County Administrative Code is required to waive residential wind permit fees because the board had already waived these fees. Today's action would include a fee waiver for the other 3 categories. This code update addition, the docket is necessary to implement prior board approval funding appropriations. Today's recommendations include, in accordance with State California Environmental Quality Act guidelines, Section 15061B3, find the project is categorically exempt from CEQA. 2, waive Board Policy B29, fees, grants, and revenue contracts, department responsibility for full cost recovery to eliminate building permit fees until the funding is depleted related to renewable energy projects. 3, approve the introduction and first reading of ordinance to codify and implement a pilot to the expansion of the renewable energy fee waiver pilot program. And 4, direct the Chief Administrative Officer to report back to the board within 1 year of the effective date of the ordinance, or as funding drops below 50%, to ask for direction to modify, repeal, or continue the ordinance in effect. This completes the presentation, and staff is available for questions. Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, if I may, just to make it perfectly clear, this is for individual property owners, correct?
Through the chair, yes, this is for residential projects. The earlier caller had referenced what sounded like commercial projects, and this project does not apply to those.
I think that just needed to be clarified. Thank you, Vince.
Thank you, Supervisor. Questions to staff? Let me ask if we have any speakers on this item.
Mr. Chairman, we had 2 requests to speak on this item. Neither of those callers have called in at the moment.
Okay.
I would move approve the staff recommendation then.
Okay. We have a motion by Supervisor Jacob. Vice Chairman Desmond.
Well, I'll second the motion, but I have a question also. I mean, they're still going to have to go through the permit process. They just can't put one up. It's just only the fees that we're waiving at this point in time. So we're not going to see these things willy-nilly just popping up now. They still have to go through the permitting and the approval process for these items. Is that true? I just want to make that, see if that's
Through the chair, yes, that is correct. This item is to waive residential permit fees only. There would still be plan checks and construction inspections.
okay. And I will second the motion, Mr. Chair.
Okay, are there any additional comments by board members? And at this point, did either the people that wanted to speak, have they called in?
They did not, Mr. Chairman.
Okay. Since we have a motion by Supervisor Jacob, seconded by Vice Chairman Desmond, we'll go ahead and call the roll.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. And with that motion, this item introduces an ordinance amending the San Diego County Administrative Code to develop a pilot program to eliminate certain building permit fees associated with renewable energy projects. With that, Chairman Cox?
Aye.
Supervisor Jacob?
Aye.
Supervisor Gaspar?
Aye.
Supervisor Fletcher?
Fletcher, aye.
Vice Chairman Desmond?
Aye.
Chairman Cox, that motion passes unanimously with all board members being present and voting aye.
Okay, we'll move on to the last item on our agenda today for action, and that's item number 9. This is an administrative item and a notice public hearing. This is a second consideration and adoption of ordinances, administrative actions and ordinances to retitle the Department of Environmental Health to the Department of Environmental Health and Quality and implement associated organizational changes. I note that we have, I think, about 8 speakers on this item, and there is a staff presentation on this item, so we'll go to that right now.
Before we begin the staff presentation, for those members of the public that requested to speak on this item, please dial into the conference line now using the instructions provided to you. Thank you.
Thank you, Chairman Cox and members of the board. During the October 28th board hearing, we presented to you a request to approve the administrative actions and ordinances required to codify retitling and organizational changes within the current Department of Environmental Health. The proposal is the result of an ongoing Luge-wide effort to review and evaluate our organization to improve overall service delivery to the communities we serve and expand opportunities for growth within our departments. With the reorganization, the Director of Environmental Health and Quality would be the department head, offering a global view for making decisions for the largest standalone comprehensive environmental health department in the state. The department head would lead with a vision for maintaining the department at the forefront of environmental health by building relationships among multiple stakeholders, understanding various perspectives and needs, anticipating and adapting to future consequences and trends, committing to improved performance, and leading operational and administrative facets, all while working closely with the county's leadership in setting and carrying out the mission and objectives for the county enterprise. The Division Director of Environmental Health, with a Registered Environmental Health Specialist certification as required by state law, will be able to have increased focus on the implementation of health officer programs, emerging trends in environmental health data, coordinating with the public health officer during outbreaks of illness, and engaging in industry policy development. 2/3 of DH staff do not have a REHS, nor are they required to have this certification for their areas of responsibility. DH's diverse programs have different types of professional certifications. Without making the proposed structural change, 2/3 of DH staff are prevented from seeking a career path to become the department head. The proposed structure would allow for team members with or without a REHS certification to have the opportunity to be considered for the position of department head. The state law requirement for the Director of Environmental Health to be a registered environmental health specialist is very specific. Under our existing DH structure, other science or health-related professionals with medical degrees, PhDs, or master's degrees would not qualify to be the department head unless they pursued an additional certification to become a REHS. Similarly, a lawyer with extensive expertise in environmental and/or public health regulations would not qualify without a REHS. A good analogy to the proposal before you today is a hospital or healthcare setting. In a hospital, the medical director is usually a licensed physician who can focus on the science of healthcare and service delivery. In contrast, the hospital CEO has a global view of overall business operations and administration and is not required to hold a medical degree. Under the proposed organizational changes, the department head position is like the hospital CEO, and the division director of environmental health is like the medical director at the hospital. The proposed organizational structure is also consistent with other environmental health structures in this state, where over 80% of directors of environmental health are division or branch directors of the program, not department heads. The diversity of skills and expertise that every member of the team brings to the department, whether technical, operational, support, or administrative, is at the core of creating a positive collective impact for public health and environmental safety of the communities we serve. This diversity of skills, working together, allows us to successfully navigate the complexities of environmental health services, including applying scientific and technical expertise, engaging the community, and partnering with other jurisdictions, agencies, and stakeholders. I will now turn the presentation over to Amy Harbert, Assistant Director of the Department of Environmental Health.
Good morning, Chairman Cox and members of the board. On October 28th, the Board of Supervisors considered the administrative actions and ordinances to retitle and implement organizational changes in DEH. Additionally, the board approved the introduction of these ordinances. As displayed in the chart shown, these ordinances would codify changing the department's name to the Department of Environmental Health and Quality, or DEHQ, retitling the department head and deputy director positions to reflect the department's new name, and retitling the assistant director position to be the new division director of environmental health, who's a registered environmental health specialist, or REHS, which is required by state law. The proposed changes do not add positions, change the budget, or impact the adopted operational plan. This organizational chart provides a functional view of how operations and programs in the department would be restructured. The department head, director of DEHQ, will continue to provide overall leadership and operational oversight of a large organization. The division director of environmental health, who is an REHS, will have immediate supervision of such programs such as food safety, body art, public swimming pools, sewage spills, and medical waste. These are known as health officer programs, and they are shown in blue. Under the current structure, the department head, who is also the director of environmental health, is responsible for all of these things. Overall leadership of the organization, in addition to being an REHS with immediate supervision over those health officer programs. The proposed structure does not compromise science, public health, safety, or the environment. State law does not require the Director of Environmental Health to be the department head. I will now turn it over to Rebecca Lafreniere, DEH Deputy Director.
Environmental health programs are organized differently throughout the state, with 80% of directors of environmental health who are not department heads overseeing programmatic functions of divisions or branches within public health or a community service type of agency, such as Los Angeles, Orange, and San Bernardino counties. 9 counties have standalone environmental health departments. Of the 3 largest counties, San Diego and Riverside have directors of environmental health as department heads, and Sacramento's structure is like the proposal for your consideration today, with the division director of environmental health. The proposed changes consider both equality and equity. There are currently 309 positions in the department, with approximately 100 or 1/3 of those positions requiring an REHS certification and 2/3 of the positions not requiring an REHS. There will be an expanded opportunity for qualified individuals with essential skills needed to lead a large organization to be the department head. A qualified person with or without an REHS could become the department head. The proposed structure will allow the Division Director of Environmental Health to have increased focus on implementation of health officer programs, emerging trends and environmental health data, coordinating with the public health officer during outbreaks of illness or case investigation, and engaging in statewide industry policy development. It also retains the technical subject matter experts with science-based knowledge as part of the department's more than 40 different environmental health and safety programs, requiring various technical certifications mandated by state law. Examples include certifications in REHS, Public Health Vector Control Technician, underground storage tanks, above-ground petroleum storage tanks, and hazardous waste operations and emergency response, or HAZWOP training. Over the course of 9 months, both internal and external stakeholder outreach was conducted. Internal outreach consisted of 8 divisional staff meetings, multiple department-wide email updates, and executive leadership offered to meet with staff in person or respond via email throughout the process. DEH's staff participation was valued. Examples of staff input incorporated includes identified additional updates needed in the proposed ordinances, expressed a desire to retain health as part of the department's name, and participated in a working group to review and provide ordinance changes to the medical waste program without making operational changes to the existing program. It was also determined that there were some philosophical differences regarding the REHS certification, with some individuals' perspectives being that all DEH management should have a science background and be required to have an REH certification, regardless of what state law requires. Other individuals believe that the county should not impose limitations and requirements beyond what is required by state law. We received a letter of support from the San Diego County Environmental Health Advisory Board, a 17-member board, including appointees from your offices who represent DEH-regulated industries such as retail food and hazmat, environmental organization, public safety, technical experts, and members of the community, including former DEH staff leadership. The advisory board unanimously voted to support the proposal. They provided feedback that the changes would remove current limitations and expand opportunities for qualified candidates to be considered for leadership positions in the department. Board members expressed the importance of retaining technical expertise within the programs, and the department should not impose certification requirements for positions greater than what is required in state law. They further appreciated the proposed changes would not result in a change in levels of service, no increase to annual cost, and no additional staff years. Since the organizational change will not result in service impacts or changes in the interactions with our stakeholders, a workshop was not conducted. However, we made direct contact and outreach with multiple stakeholder groups. We shared information about the proposed changes and made ourselves available to provide additional information, clarifications, or answer questions of our stakeholder groups or their membership. As a deputy director who is an REHS with more than 32 years of environmental health experience, starting my county career as a student worker in the public health lab and working my way through the environmental health series into management positions, the skills and leadership competencies needed are very different at each level. As you transition into management, you rely less on your technical skills and increase focus on initiative, problem solving, stakeholder engagement, and supporting staff and the organization. There are national and state level conversations taking place about the future of the environmental health profession, the evolving challenges of our industry is facing, and how we as REHS professionals can encourage individuals to pursue a career in environmental health, provide leadership training opportunities to support a new generation of environmental health professionals, and prepare our existing workforce with skills needed to transition into various department leadership roles. I believe the proposal before your consideration today is the right organizational structure for the department and its staff, and now and into the future. Since the Board of Supervisors hearing on this item on October 28th, we were made aware of an online petition of opposition. The petition contained some misinformation, and on November 12th, the Deputy Chief Administrative Officer sent an email and fact sheet to DEH staff and external stakeholders, which was also posted on the DEH website. The DCAO letter and fact sheet has been shared with your offices and is part of the public record. It seems subsequent correspondence from the same group has been circulated with a potential request for a delay in action regarding the second reading of the administrative actions and ordinance changes. We do not support the request to delay the proposed changes. Today's recommended actions for your consideration are to adopt amendments to the county administrative and regulatory code ordinances and the compensation ordinance. This concludes our presentations, and we are available to answer any questions.
Okay, thank you very much for the staff presentation on this. Let me ask if my colleagues have any questions before we go to the public comment. Seeing none, it's my understanding we have perhaps 8 or more requests to speak on this item. I'll ask the clerk to go ahead and call those individuals up at this time. We would ask you to keep your comments to within 3 minutes, please.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Also note for the record that we received 3 e-comments on this item. We'll be calling speakers by the last 4 digits of their phone number. You'll hear a notification that your call has been unmuted. You'll then need to press *6 to unmute your phone. Each caller will be asked to state their name for the record, and as the chairman indicated, you'll have 3 minutes to address the board. You'll hear this sound when your time is up, so please conclude your comments at that time. I'll remind all the public speakers they should mute their TV or live video stream before they begin speaking. Aaron, if you could please identify the first caller.
Yes, our first caller is 7200. 7200.
Thank you. Can you hear me okay?
Yes, we can hear you.
Good morning, Supervisor Cox and members of the board. I'm Jack Monger, representing the Industrial Environmental Association, and I'm here this morning to ask for a delay on this item. First, please allow me to apologize to the board and the staff for coming here at the 11th hour to seek this delay. But in our defense, I hope you'll know that my members have been overwhelmed these past few months with regulatory changes proposed at the Regional Water Board level, by CARB, by the Air Pollution Control District. And this was in addition to serving on the AB 617 Steering Committee, helping draft the SERP that you will be reviewing later today, and trying to run their businesses during COVID. In the midst of all that, we did not give the DEH reorg a full review. At the same time, there was no workshop that we are aware of, which the county typically conducts for major proposals like this. Now, particularly in light of comments from 2 former directors and the poll of over 100 current and former employees, we would like to see the item delayed until DEH can conduct a workshop with the regulated community to address the issues that have been raised. Our concerns include fiscal considerations. How will DEH manage and implement these changes without some increased costs that will be covered by permit holders? This is a pivotal question for us. There appears to be some difference of opinion about the availability of registered environmental health specialists in California to fill the DEH director's position. Former DEH director Gary Urbeck, however, believes there is no shortage and that retitling and reorganizing DEH will not help fill the director's position, suggesting instead a targeted recruitment process. We would like to hear more from DEH on that matter. We are unclear regarding the reference to social justice and wonder if DEH has identified specific deficiencies that need to be addressed, and if so, what the plan is to address those deficiencies. Finally, the debate over whether an REHS certification should be a requirement for the director's position is important. While we have mixed feelings either way, we feel very strongly that the need for science-based decision-making is essential for DEH operations, and we need to know how a science-based decision process will be preserved if the person at the top, the ultimate decision maker for DEH, does not have the REHS certification. Those are the key issues for us, and I believe they could be addressed very effectively at a workshop in early December. We hope you will grant us a short delay so IEA and other stakeholders can participate in this important process. Thank you for your consideration of our request.
Thank you. Our next speaker is 1646. 1646.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Great. This is Melanie Cohn, Director of Regional Policy and Government Affairs for Biocom, the statewide association for the life sciences headquartered here in San Diego. Good morning, Chairman Cox and supervisors. Biocom has not taken a position on the proposed changes to DEH, but we would like to request that the vote be postponed until a public workshop on the changes can be held with stakeholders. The county has a history of holding these sessions to gather feedback from those who would be impacted by department changes. And while these changes are administrative, a number of our member companies have come to us concerned about the proposal and its long-term effects on the department's ability to execute its role in ensuring the public welfare. We'd just like some additional time for input, as we have heard that the proposed changes could indeed impact permittees. Thank you.
Thank you. Our next speaker is 2716. 2716.
Chairman Cox and supervisors, my name is Scott Rosecrans, and I'm an Environmental Health Specialist 3 within the Land and Water Quality Division of the Department of Environmental Health. I want to first thank Supervisor Jacob for prior questions regarding some of my points I brought up at the previous reading of this action. I believe the answers provided by administrative staff to you and the other board members in response to your questions were dishonest at best. This action was conceived, planned, and implemented with little to no input from line staff. The initial email sent to all DEH staff on April 8th, 2020 by Amy Harbert stated, and I quote, "We will be renaming our department to be called the Environmental Quality." She reiterated that point later in the email stating, and I quote, "The department will still have 2 other executive positions." She continued with another quote, "A director of environmental health will be appointed to oversee these programs," and added, quote, "I wanted to communicate to the team what changes were forthcoming." It is plainly obvious from the words that were chosen for this email that this action was already considered to have occurred more than 32 weeks ago by administrative staff. Any involvement of staff after this email was a mere token of formality. A fraction of the 300 plus staff members of DEH participated in a handful of hastily organized short video conference calls. I don't think any staff member who attended any of these brief events would have considered themselves to have been truly included in this process. Answers to staff questions were vague or consisted of answers such as, "That's above my pay grade." There was little discussion in the 2 calls that I was involved with, as most staff were simply afraid to question the action or speak up in opposition. No staff expressed their support. Since voicing my sole opposition to this action on November 18th, I've received dozens of people support from my fellow staff members, including a number of chief level staff members, virtually all of whom thanked me for speaking up. Many of them explained that they believe they were not able to do so. It is my belief that these engagements expose the true reason that it's difficult to recruit for upper management positions within the Department of Environmental Health. There is, at the very least, a perceived fear within the ranks of DEH staff that causes people to remain silent rather than voice their opinions or question upper management. Qualified staff who fear upper management are not likely to seek advancement into positions that would put them closer to those fears, real or perceived. Adopting this action before you today will not cure the issues it claims to resolve. What it will do is allow the DCAO to appoint a director of environmental health, as stated in the previous email, and to appoint a close personal friend as the director of environmental health and quality. In doing so, it may very well lead to numerous other problems within the Department of Environmental Health. For 3 of you here today, this will be one of your last votes as a county supervisor. Please do the right thing and vote in opposition to this action. Show support to all DEH staff members rather than voting in support of a poorly conceived and designed action that, quite frankly, stinks for numerous reasons that I can't fully explain in 3 minutes. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Our next caller is 4209. 4209.
Good morning. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Thank you. My name is Brad Long. I'm an employee for the Department of Environmental Health. I've been there for approximately 24 years. I'd like to start out by saying a special thanks to you, Supervisor Jacobs, for your many years of service. As a resident in the unincorporated area of D2, I have always appreciated your political values that you've brought to our jurisdiction. And also a special thanks to you, Supervisor Cox, for your many years of service. You would not recall, but we did meet about 20 years ago. You were conducting ride-alongs with various inspectors within the Land Use and Environmental Group and followed me on a routine compliance inspection. And I always really valued that level of engagement. Again, I've been with the department for 24 years. At the heart of this proposal is to demote the Director of Environmental Health from overall leadership of the department down to that of an assistant director or deputy director who would only have oversight for one half of the department. Therefore, science-based decision-making would only be benefited for that one half of the department. Myself and other callers that are going to hear from today are joined by more than 100 other people. We did put out a poll to gauge response to this action that is before you, and we heard from the public, we heard from the business community, and we heard from over 70 former and current employees of the Department of Environmental Health, of whom include 1 chief administrative officer, 3 former directors of environmental health, 3 former chiefs or program managers, 21 current, former, and supervisors, and 42 other environmental health specialists or those that hold other professional positions within the department. Combined, we have 1,100 years of experience within the Department of Environmental Health, and we represent the entire range of positions from the very entry level up to the executive level. Some simple questions were asked as a part of that poll, and 95% of the people responded that this proposal would undermine the importance of science-based decision-making within DEH. All one has to do is look at the organizational chart that was put forth, and you will see that that science-based decision would only cover those divisions underneath the Director of Environmental Health. I can assure the board that all programs throughout the Department of Environmental Health benefit from this science-based decision-making. 87% of the people indicated that the proposal lacks financial considerations for the department, its business community, whose permit fees fund the Department of Environmental Health. And to gauge that cost, one only has to look at the various documents that are attached to this agenda item that represent many hours of work that went into this effort as opposed to focusing on our core values. And this is just the start. You cannot rebrand a large organization like the Department of Environmental Health and not have cost. 80% of the respondents also could not find a nexus to social justice.
Thank you, sir.
And lastly, 89% responded that the proposal does not aid us in finding this Director of Environmental Health. I encourage you to vote against, and I appreciate your time.
Thank you. Our next speaker is 6528. 6528.
Good morning, Chairman Cox and members of the board. My name is Arlene Gerfield. I'm a resident of District 3 and a supervisor in the Department of Environmental Health. I'm a registered environmental health specialist in California as well as at the national level, and also possess a master's degree of public health. I believe strong public health leadership starts with the department head and should be based on sound scientific evidence from a person with the expertise, vision, and conviction to safeguard the health of our residents and visitors and protect the environment of our beautiful county. It has been my honor to serve the County of San Diego for these last 13 years. I oppose this item before you today for 3 reasons. First, this measure undermines the importance of science-based leadership. This is best illustrated by the timing and development of this proposal. This proposal was largely developed over the last year while the Director of Environmental Health position has remained vacant. This vacancy came at a critical time when DEH should have been dedicating all of its resources to combat COVID, support our stakeholders, address climate change, and promote environmental justice for our disadvantaged communities. Instead, DEH developed this administrative action to strip credentials from the department head position. This is a clear example of how the lack of science-based leadership, public health leadership at the top, misguided the department away from serving the public to serve the self-interest of a few individuals. My second reason is the lack of transparency behind this item. Typically, if there are any potential changes to the DEH organization, stakeholder meetings and notifications are made to ensure that they are fully informed of potential impacts to their fees and services and are provided opportunities for feedback. Real costs are associated with implementing the changes contained in this item. However, stakeholder feedback was not solicited until less than 2 weeks ago. Additionally, DEH executive meetings with staff were one-way informational meetings and not genuine consideration for feedback. When a few brave staff did express concerns, including the appearance that this item was a way to circumvent state law and to promote a specific individual, it was largely dismissed and left unacknowledged. Lastly, this proposal fails to explain how demoting the existing director position to the salary and the position of an assistant director will help with the recruitment of qualified individuals. If DEH and Luge were concerned with succession planning, qualified candidates with the appropriate credentials to be director should have been hired for all assistant and deputy director level positions in the first place. Third reason for opposing this item are the apparent conflicts of interest and the culture of DEH staff to fear retaliation. These concerns were expressed to DEH executives in the hopes that they would allay staff fears and cultivate a department built on trust and an environment that values staff opinions. Sadly, instead of taking this opportunity to build credibility and encourage staff discourse with staff, a letter from executive management was sent to only further intimidate them from sharing their concerns. If DEH is committed to the betterment of its staff and stakeholders, their involvement should be sought and considered without fear of retaliation. I respectfully request the board to please reject this item. We need leadership with the proper education, expertise, and credentials now more than ever to face the challenges we face in our county.
Thank you. Our next speaker is 4747. 4747.
Good morning, Chairman Cox and members of the board. My name is Linda Turquette, and I work for the Department of Environmental Health as Deputy Director. I am calling in support of the proposed changes to the Department of Environmental Health. This proposal provides definition and clarification to the roles of two essential executive positions within the Department of Environmental Health: the Department Head Director and the Divisional Director of Environmental Health, allowing each the opportunity to focus on their important but specific roles, enhancing the overall function and efficiency of the organization. This department, with over 40 different program areas, serves the second largest populated county in the state and needs a department head with the leadership skills and the business acumen to provide fiscal responsibility and to meet the challenges that come with running a large organization with a $55 million budget and over 300 employees. With operational leadership and other programmatic oversight managed by the department head director, the Director of Environmental Health can truly concentrate on the implementation of the environmental health programs as intended by state law. This is not a dilution of the Director of Environmental Health position, but quite the opposite. It provides a more concentrated focus and attention to environmental health programs. This benefit is enjoyed by over 80% of the environmental health directors in California, who implement programs at a divisional level and do not act as the department head. Before relocating to San Diego, I was employed as a director of environmental health in another county. I also served as a department head and experienced firsthand the additional responsibility that comes with the administration of a full service department. I became aware, while working closely with my colleague directors of environmental health, who were not department heads, that their divisional level responsibilities afforded them greater opportunity to really focus on the programmatic side of environmental health and to participate and affect change in statewide policy and legislation, making a difference in public service delivery and enhancing public health and safety. Thank you for your consideration of support.
Thank you. Our next speaker is 1214. 1214. Would you like to address the board? If so, please press *6 now to unmute yourself. If not, we'll go to 2481. 2481.
Good morning, or I think we're almost at good afternoon, Chairman Cox and members of the board. My name is Elise Rothschild, and I'm the previous County of San Diego Director of Environmental Health. I support the renaming and restructuring of the current Department of Environmental Health. I am a registered environmental health specialist and worked for over 32 years in the field of environmental health. This proposed restructuring is the right thing to do for San Diego County. Change is not easy, but to be a leader, especially in this field, you must embrace change to stay in the forefront and ensure the department and programs stay relevant. It would take me a very long time to tell you all the change I've seen in this field in the last 32 years. Early on in my career, I realized if this was going to be my lifelong career, I was going to need to embrace change. Actually, this is one of the things that I've always loved about environmental health. We are always leading the way to ensure public health and protection of the environment. Before I retired last December, I had begun to work with the management team on this proposed restructuring. This is a large department with over 40 environmental programs and 300 plus staff, many of which do not require a registration of environmental health specialists. As the director, it became clear to me that to sustain this department with all its critical mandates for the community, we were going to need to shift the structuring so that the department director can focus on the big picture running of the department, and the environmental health director can focus on the ever-changing specific programmatic aspects. This proposed structure does not water down the REHS. It allows for the department director to run the department administratively while giving the environmental health director the ability and time to manage the technical, or as been previously discussed today, the science-based aspects of the health officer mandated program. This restructuring also allows for improved succession planning, as 73% of the department staff don't currently have an REHS. This restructuring does not diminish the importance of the REHS and will also give this department the much needed help in leadership recruitment, retention, and succession planning. Thank you for the opportunity to speak today, and I encourage you to vote in favor of this item.
Thank you. And this is the final call for the speaker with the phone number with last four digits 1214. 1214, you're the last remaining speaker.
Hello.
Hello.
Hello, can you hear me now?
Yes, we can.
Okay. Good morning, Chairman Cox and supervisors. My name is Malcolm Vinge. I'm the chair of the 17-member Board of Environmental Health Advisors. And the board voted unanimously to support DEH's retitling and organizational changes as shown to you. The board believes it's very important to continue employing staff that are registered environmental health specialists. However, it is not a requirement at all levels of staffing, and there are many facets to operating an efficiently effective department, as it will require experts from many professions to manage all the various programs and issues in today's world. Bottom line, it is important to make certain that we comply with state requirements and that we do not exceed them. Thank you very much.
Thank you. And that concludes public testimony on this item. Chairman Cox.
Okay, we'll proceed into board discussion. Yes, Supervisor Jacob.
Mr. Chairman, yes, I did raise some concerns at the last meeting, and I really appreciate and want to thank all the speakers that took the time to weigh in on this. I am definitely inclined to continue this item at this time for some of the reasons that were mentioned. I have a lot of respect for the Industrial Environmental Association, also Biocom. And then we have heard from a whole lot of both former and current employees of the Department of Environmental Health voicing concerns. In my opinion, from what I know, this change has not been thoroughly vetted with all the stakeholders, and those would be involved in the outcome of this. I have to go back to when I was first elected to the school board, which is a long time ago. And the prior school board had hired a superintendent to run the school district that had absolutely no educational experience. He was a businessman. And I can tell you it didn't work. He was the only businessman in the whole state of California that was a superintendent. Without the education background and having that ability to understand what was going on in the classroom, he ran the district purely from a financial standpoint. Everything was all about the money. and it was bad, and the educational aspects of the programs were sacrificed. Having said that, it doesn't mean to say that you can't have someone as the head of a department that doesn't have the expertise or the credentials to know the job and what goes on in that department. I'm going to raise another issue. Council may not know the answer today, but as I'm listening to this conversation, it raises a question in my mind of a possible 1090 issue. I think we know what happened with the city of San Diego on that issue, on contract issues, and it came up at one time, even when I was sitting on the retirement board, and I raised the issue and council researched it and determined, yes, there was a 1090 issue, and it had to do with the participation of a current staff person that actually participated in a recommendation that came to the board where that particular person would benefit from the recommendation. So I'd like council to take a look at answering the question, if someone involved in the recommendation that we have before us today would personally benefit from this recommendation, do we have a potential 1090 issue in this case? So I don't know if you have an answer to that now. You'd probably have to look back on that, but I think that's an extremely important question to get answered. And again, I base that on my experience of what a very similar situation when I was on the retirement board a few years ago. We referred that question to staff. The legal counsel at the retirement board came back and said, yes, there is. So again, that would be something I'd refer back to staff. So there are way too many concerns about this for me to go forward with it. I'm not sure it warrants outright denying it, but I'm going to put a motion on the floor to continue this item and to engage both representatives of the Industrial Environmental Association, Biocom, the petitioners, which included both former and current DEH staff persons, and any other stakeholders in reviewing this, thoroughly vetting the recommendation, and then coming back to the board at a later date with a recommendation on this. So that would be my recommendation, and also the referral of the question to council on a possible 1090 issue.
Okay, I take it that was a motion?
Yes.
Okay, is there a second to that motion?
I'll second it for discussion, Mr. Chair, but I'd like to ask Helen to potentially weigh in and see if a delay, you know, I wouldn't want to delay it past December. You know, a lot of folks said that they weren't able to, you know, weigh in, but this is the second reading, so there has been time. I'm you know, considering giving it a little more time. Helen, can you weigh in on if we do wait another 30 days or wait till the December meeting to bring this back? Is there going to be any difficulties there?
I don't know whether Helen is tied into this meeting or not, but.
No, she's not. Well, I guess if staff, it could
Sarah Agassi?
Yes, thank you, Chairman Cox. As it relates to delaying it to the December meeting, we can certainly do that. I would also like to have the opportunity to provide some of the responses to some of the things that we heard, because I believe it is important to have that as part of the record for purposes of today, if that would be all right with the board members. The issues really that we're looking at, and I'd like to start with some of what we heard. First of all, truly appreciate everyone who has commented. I think that one of the things that's wonderful about our democracy is for individuals to be able to provide their perspectives. And I also believe that it's credit to the department that there are individuals who feel very comfortable in raising their concerns, in having a survey where it was 33 current staff members, I think majority of whom were in the hazardous incident response team, And then also for prior DH staff, and I believe a former CAO was highlighted, and then members of the public. We do not move forward with the thoughts as it relates to a potential reorganization with one particular person in mind. We wouldn't move forward with really putting a proposal in front of the Board of Supervisors in that light. You heard from some of the team members that we have, from Elise and Rebecca and Linda, as well as Heather Bonimo, who had provided her comments as well, which is there are different skill sets as it relates to the Director of Environmental Health versus a department head. We have been having the conversations of DH leadership with staff and have provided those one-on-one opportunities for meetings. As it relates to the stakeholders, in September, we reached out to them to provide them with information, and then certainly made team members available. As it related to the public workshop statement that was made, when it comes to fee packages and proposals, that has been something that really, in the time that I have been DCAO, we have been very proactive on. When we have fee package proposals that are going to directly impact permit holders, we hold those public hearings. And we go through the fee package proposals in detail because those are directly impacting those permit holders. When it comes to reorganizations for purposes of staff where it's not directly related to the stakeholders, I look at it from the standpoint of planning and development services, parks and recreation, agriculture, weights and measures, some of our other departments that have gone through public works, different reorganizations. There haven't been public workshops. We are happy to meet with the IEA and Biocom if that is the direction that the board would like to provide, and we can certainly come back in December for purposes of that second hearing, and certainly can look at the 1090 issue as well that was raised by Supervisor Jacob.
Okay, does that answer some of the questions you had, Vice Chairman Desmond?
Yeah, yes, it does. And I think more time is probably the best course of action for right now. I'd like to have it back in December. I know there's a lot going on in that meeting, but I don't want to delay this too much longer. So I'm supporting the motion. Thank you.
Okay, any other comments by board members? If not, I'd just like to clarify that if this motion passes, this would come back at the December 8th meeting for final action.
Yeah, well, yes, Mr. Chairman, I'd like it to come back on the 8th, and then hopefully we'll have the information, and then we can base a decision on it from there. So the motion would include to come for the staff to work with the groups that I mentioned in my motion, get an answer on the 1090 issue, and then to come back with a report back on the 8th of December.
Wouldn't it be the 9th? Because that's the land use meeting?
The 9th, yes. Thank you.
Good point. Okay. Further discussion? Okay, please go ahead and call the roll.
Thank you. Chairman Cox?
Aye.
Supervisor Jacob?
Aye.
Supervisor Gaspar?
No.
Supervisor Fletcher?
Aye.
Vice Chairman Desmond?
Aye.
Chairman Cox, that motion passes with Supervisor Gaspar voting no, all other supervisors being present and voting aye.
Very good. Well, we, again, appreciate all the commenters on this last item. That concludes our order of business for today. Our next regular meeting of the San Diego County Board of Supervisors will be on Tuesday, December 8th at 9 a.m. We thank you all for your participation, and we stand adjourned.